Any type of presentations before we begin?
Mr. Chairman, we do have a couple of slides just to share with you. They are in your backup. And I don't know if David, if you can hear, if you could just go to the next slide. Oh, sorry, there you go. We just wanted to share with you, last year, this was the adopted budget and the agencies, their percentage and the funding that was provided. And then the next slide is just a bar chart of the same thing. And then the next slide, these are the requested, and we'll leave it on this slide. These are the requests for this year, and we just wanted you to be aware of that. And then otherwise, I would just say that you have the order of presenters, and we do have a number of presenters on teams, and hopefully that will go smoothly.
Yeah, right on cue. All right, fantastic. Thank you, Janice. All right, board. Without objection, we'll go ahead and start working through the list. First organization is going to be Ready Alliance Brace and Greg Strader. Good morning, Greg.
Good morning, Commissioners, and thank you for investing resources in public safety through the work of Brace and our 500 partners. It's been our privilege to serve alongside your emergency management team for 6 weeks during the COVID emergency at the Emergency Operations Center. As a result of our collaborative work with our partners, some 565 volunteer shifts have been served by new organizations previously uninvolved with feeding in our community. Those collaborative efforts with Feeding the Gulf Coast, Manna Food Pantries, and others have resulted in 1.5 million meals being provided in Escambia County. That's a 53% increase over the same period the prior year. As you know, Brace operates under a memorandum of understanding with Escambia County. Under that agreement, we serve as the county's lead organization for Emergency Support Function 15, volunteers and donations, and support ESF 6, mass care, and other ESFs in the EOC. We also serve as the coordinator for the Citizen Corps for Escambia County, and we're currently preparing an application for submission to Volunteer Florida in collaboration with Emergency Management. We're also doing the same for the Community Emergency Response Team, or CERT program, and again are collaborating with the county for that submission. We serve as the convener and coordinator for long-term recovery through the Escambia Long-Term Recovery Group, and will be continuing to take on new roles as a result of the conclusion of operations of Rebuild Northwest Florida. 4 Brace volunteers in service to America are currently serving as summer associates at the Ebonwood Community Center, supporting the Play, Learn, Grow summer camp to provide disaster education. 75% of the way through the county fiscal year, Brace has met 195% of the annual goal for volunteers attending training, following a 128% increase last year. 83% of the annual goal for volunteer training hours, following a 66% increase last year. 99% of the annual goal for volunteers mobilized, following a 534% increase last year. 65% of the annual goal for outreach events to inform, educate, and train residents due to partner organizations canceling or postponing many of the public events that we would ordinarily support, following a 205% increase last year. 118% of the annual goal for residents attending outreach events, due in large part to conducting those outreach events via virtual presentations and participation. Following 144% following a 148% increase last year, and only 49% of the annual goal for children and youth attending emergency preparedness activities, due in large part to the cancellation and postponement of many of the youth-serving events scheduled for children this year. I'm open for any questions you may have.
Thank you, Greg. Commissioner Underhill.
Thank you. Madam Administrator, are any of our emergency services staff members here today?
They are not.
Okay. One of the things that I found very disappointing about the COVID issue is to find out that you and Eric had to write a pandemic plan in the midst of a plan, or at the beginning of a pandemic. So I am very, resiliency is something that you and I talk about a lot. In order to really capture and understand and have the right metrics for what Brace does in terms of resiliency, and certainly respect a lot of those activities that you've got there, but helping with a meals project today isn't really the resiliency issue with regard to that I believe that Brace exists to do. I need to see, now that we have our personnel issues solved over on that side of the house, Madam Administrator, before I can fund Brace's ask for resiliency of this community, I need to know from our leadership what is their part. Okay, what are the metrics? What are they? Because we are not a resilient community today to a hurricane, which is our primary, threat. Right? We're in the midst of hurricane season. We are nowhere near as prepared as we think we are. And 1/3 of the population of this county has never been a head of household in a hurricane event. Those of us who lived through Ivan, we think, oh, we got this. We don't got this. and so I really want to see that coming from from the administration side, Janice. I want to know what are we doing, what is our role, county government, and then what is our partner role. I was told we have a new term for this. What is the term that we're using? Community partner. I want to know what our community partner's role is so that we have the metrics by which to hold them accountable at the end of the year. Does that make sense to you, Janice? Do you know when I might be able to get that from?
I can speak to Jason. I know that this is one of his fortes.
Yeah, it's a strong suit for him, as I recall from the hiring process, of how to expand the team and get more people off the bench and in the game. Brace has certainly been that for us for a long time, but now that we have a new quarterback on the field to continually beat this metaphor to death, I really want to know from Jason, what should we expect out of Brace for this $100,000, and how do we measure that a year from now? Thank you.
Thank you. See no one else's lights on. Thank you, Greg.
Thank you, sir.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir.
quick question. Janice, to balance our budget, are we still for outside agency at 1.4? Because we don't have 1.9 budgeted, right? We have 1.4 budgeted.
Correct.
So at some point, I guess we're listening, Mr. Chairman, and we're going to try to get to that 1.4 number.
Yeah.
Is that the goal?
I think that's the goal, and I think that'll be the achieved goal. That might be a month or so out, or September workshops out.
Oh, yeah, I was expecting in the workshop, so I was just for anticipation
That would be my anticipation.
that we'll work through it at that time. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
We're certainly open to any additional comments today about it. If people have things that are definitively black and white that they want to get on the record with their support or lack of support for. But as far as a needed outcome, I think we have a little bit of time to get there.
Absolutely. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Yes, sir. Next organization is Gulf Coast Kids House. Stacy Kostavecki and Kristen Busey. Oh, via Teams, I'm sorry. Is that still working?
Their volume. There we go.
Hi, good morning. Stacy, Kirsten, good morning.
Good morning.
So we
Morning.
Good morning. So we are on to Gulf Coast Kids House in the Community Partners agenda. I don't know who might want to speak for a couple minutes, and we'll see if there's any board questions.
This is Kirsten with the Child Protection Team. I'm the program manager. Getting a lot of feedback. Can you guys hear me okay?
Yes,
Okay.
we can hear you.
As you are all familiar, the funding that is provided to our program is used to, for our team to be able to do medical examinations on abused and neglected children. Are there any specific questions? Otherwise, I was prepared to give you an idea of just the trends with abuse and neglect cases in Escambia County specific to the COVID crisis.
Okay. Board, any questions or comments for Kirsten? Seeing none, I think that all of us are familiar with the organization and familiar with the mandate and the requirement that we have. So if there's not any further comments, I consider we're able to move forward. Thank you. Thank you both for being here.
All right, thank you.
All right, Board, our next outside organization is Legal Services of North Florida. Christine Kelly Fossil, I believe, is with us via Teams as well.
Good morning. How are you?
Hey, good morning, Christine.
So, as you know, Legal Services in North Florida is a not-for-profit law firm that serves 16 Panhandle counties, including Escambia County. We provide assistance at no cost to our clients. In 2018, we provided assistance in 1,099 cases for Escambia County residents that helped 3,101 people. We helped 34% of those beyond advice and counsel. We improved the financial stability of at least 174 of those, improved family stability and safety for 318, improved housing stability for 314, decreased the debt for 61, and we defended eviction for 149 residents, among other things. If you guys have any specific questions, I'll be happy to answer them. There's a lot of echo, so I apologize for that. I don't know how to make that stop.
Well, the audio on our side is good, so if we have to pick between your audio and our audio, at least the public audio is good on our side. Christine, I don't see, I'm sorry, Commissioner Bender?
No, I appreciate it. Maybe if there's anyone else on Teams, if they could maybe mute their microphones, that might help the feedback that you all are getting. I know that I think Legal Services North Florida, I think you guys typically put the full amount down, but then you split it, and I think that's been working. So I think from our standpoint, though, only one of the 39,188 that we're funding plus the 85,500 in the Article 5 fund, that's the total to be split potentially with Northwest Florida Legal Services and Legal Services North Florida, just for the.
That's correct. We don't have a problem with a split. If they didn't apply, we would of course want the whole thing, because there's definitely a need for all the services and all the money. But we don't have a problem sharing with them.
Okay.
Well, personally, Christian, I appreciate the public service that y'all have done in District 5 specifically over the years. And don't see any other lights on, so if you don't have any further comments, then we'll kind of move on down.
No, Mr. Chairman, Christian, I do appreciate it. Whenever I've sent someone from my office, you've always been receptive, so we certainly appreciate it.
Thank you. We're happy to help whoever we can.
Well, the outcome of this, I know one of the things that you've helped with folks in District 5 has been some real property issues and those kind of things. And, when you have, economic strife and downturns and those kind of things, that certainly lends itself to the possibility of having some real property issues going forward. So, I appreciate your willingness to support in the past and hope that you'll be willing to do so as we work through this pandemic. But thank you, Christine.
Thank you.
All right, our next agency is Northwest Florida Legal Services. And I don't necessarily have a form for them Janice, do you know if they're on teams specifically, or do you have any idea? They did not respond? Okay. Moving forward.
They
Community
didn't,
health,
they didn't respond in
They-
terms of them being here today, or,
they responded with a budget request. I
Yeah,
see
they had a
that,
budget
but I'm not
request,
sure
yeah.
about the attendance,
Yeah.
I'm not sure.
oh, okay, Lieutenant, just wanted to make sure they were still requesting funding.
All right, next organization is Community Health Northwest. Chandra Smiley. Teams, okay, super. Hey, would you mind writing that up? All right. Hi, good morning, Chandra. Yeah, and if there is anybody else on Teams that's not the agency that we're interacting with, if they would please mute their microphone, as Commissioner Bender indicated, that may help with some of the participants' feedback on their side.
Good morning. Are you able to hear me?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, I'm sorry, but for some reason my video isn't working, so I apologize for that. But I do want to take a moment to thank you as well as for the staff members for putting it together. I know coordinating the meeting virtually is a bit challenging, so I appreciate your efforts in doing it. Chandra Smiley, Committee Northwest Board, where the federally qualified care center, request for outside agency funding is for $45,160. These funds are used primarily to support laboratory services for insured patients, as well as we're able to use county funds, low income match dollars. And last year we were able to bring an additional $250,000 to support medical services for the patient. Happy to answer any questions.
Hi. Yes, we.
Great.
Yeah,
just-
the video is working on our side.
Yeah, we do see you. We do need a little entertainment in here, but that's good.
Commissioner May?
Yeah. Mr. Chairman, thank you. And Sandra, I want to thank you for the work that you've done with us on the mobile testing, the testing for the disadvantaged neighborhoods. It's been a great partnership with community health. And I know there have been questions of the importance of having a public health agency down to through the years, and there's always been a lot of discussion in this organization. But I'll tell you, Steve, when you pick one that you're going to support, quite frankly, you could have asked for more money, Ms. Smiley, and you still would have had my support. So thank you for your service.
Thank you. Thank you for the partnership.
Yeah, in previous years, a lot of my advocacy has been due to the expansion of the footprint of the organization, especially in District 5, where I didn't have a similar organization, or I have a demographic didn't have access to similar type healthcare in a couple of communities. But I think this year is a different discussion because we've had a 4-month process of intimate partnership with the testing and the mobile testing, and I think there's been a lot, probably cumulative years of interaction just over the last 4 months between the county and the organization.
Yeah, I mean, initially, Mr. Chairman, I was very disappointed in the pre-screening and the lack of testing for people who were uninsured. In the community health, filled that gap, and we eliminated the pre-screening, we eliminated insurance barriers, and got into some neighborhoods that traditionally would not have gotten tested, and many of these citizens had underlying and pre-existing conditions that made them more vulnerable, giving us that vulnerable population. And so I was glad to partner with Sandra Donaldson and Sandra Smiley in Community Health in getting out. And I think that we were the lead probably in the state of Florida in getting out with mobile testing and getting out into different neighborhoods throughout the state. So as we speak with our colleagues from across the state, the reply back to me is that you guys really got ahead. I mean, it's unfortunate the condition we're in now,
Right,
and
sure.
Sandra and I talked about that, but the initial onset, we went very aggressively, and Sandra, I look forward to continuing that. I think that the need is even greater now, and so I want to make sure that you're properly equipped with resources, then make sure that we don't lag on the testing and the public awareness that we're doing through your organization.
One thing, Chandra, with y'all's status as the ACA organization for the area, do you have access to any vendors or any I don't know, any inventory of the reagent testing that's needed for the rapid testing that we hear is such an issue to try to expand the rapid testing?
I was actually on a call yesterday afternoon with this other CEOs throughout the state for FQHCs, and we are looking to put together our own GPO because we are throughout the state. There's limited access to testing kits, reagents, PPE. So we're in the process right now of standing something up statewide as a coalition to use some purchasing power
Okay.
to increase our vendor access.
All right, and I believe each of us have kind of different relationships with healthcare folks, but it seems to be a common theme from regardless of the organization that the access to the reagent is an issue, and I thought maybe through that status maybe you would have access to something maybe outside the box, but. Sure.
Sonia, can you kind of give us a 2-minute update on where we are with COVID testing and kind of the state as you see it in the community? I know it's budget, but I'm sure we'll have a meeting with Dr. Lanza tomorrow, but can you just kind of give us a quick update?
So we are standing up a permanent mobile testing team. I mean, we've been doing mobile COVID testing since the middle of March. But now we've dedicated staff to do that so that we can increase our capacity to offer testing. As a matter of fact, we're testing right now at Jackson Street today. I don't foresee a slowing down on testing. I think that testing is going to be important for us as a community in terms of moving forward with opening schools up, continuing to stay open at the level that we are right now. So we are planning to support access to COVID testing through the end of the year, if not into the first quarter of next year.
Thank you. I appreciate that update. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. That's all I have.
Along those lines, have you been able to secure some of because with with the CARES funding and the ability to pay for more of the mobile testing units, I believe one of the other issues was access to some personnel, to actually just the bodies to man those. Have you been able to successfully kind of procure some people to stand up new units and new teams to work in the fields?
So what we've done is we've redefined some of our existing positions. We have seen a drop in our visit volume, and so it has given us some clinical personnel to reallocate. We are working to get. Okay. I'm sorry, I think we have an emergency. I'm sorry, I've got an emergency happening here at my site. So we are doing everything we can to procure permanent testing
Super.
personnel.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, we can come back to her later if it's more
yeah.
suitable.
I think we've wrapped up. Thank you, Chandra.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. All right, board. Next organization is going to be Pathways for Change. Hi, morning.
Good morning. I'm Connie Buckman with Pathways for Change. So it's a very emotional time for all of us in our world. But the beauty of COVID is there's silver linings everywhere. And that's what we found at Pathways for Change. So we want to continue serving, and how do we do that? We normally have 30 volunteers, community leaders teaching in our dorm. Of course, all that stopped. We only have 3 staff going in and serving our men at the Work Release Center. So we got creative and learned how to use Zoom. We partnered with Health and Human Services out of Washington, D.C. that has a local program that they've been providing for 15 years called Fatherhood Fire. And the intent is 24 workshops, 24 hours, teaching men the importance of their role as fathers, the importance of co-parenting and restoring relationships with the mother of the child, parenting classes for both of them. And then an interesting component is household management. You know, as a man, how do you, trying to teach Alan Bookman this too, how do you really manage all that it takes to keep the household running, and then the normal curriculum for financial literacy. So we've taken the opportunity to really dive into that program. We're doing most of that at Pathways for Change currently, but now with more of a focus. We're also received some funding to replicate our program virtually. So hopefully by the first of the year, we'll be able to take this 24-hour workshop into any jail or prison. Certainly love the opportunity to have Escambia County as a project, a pilot project. There's dorms right outside of where we exist. So lots of good things in the future. Our family center, we're open on Saturdays, Wednesdays, working with 7 other nonprofits providing services, cash assistance, rent, food, job placement. So a very exciting time during that day, and also trying to stay safe as we do that.
Sure.
So any questions? I didn't put a form because I am present, so if you have any questions about our application.
Board? All right, thank you, Connie.
Good.
Cindy Lights, thank you.
Thank you.
Yep. All right, next organization is Lakeview, and I believe that they're on Teams. Carolyn Sherman,
Yes, good morning.
good morning.
So to say thank you for the support we've had in the past. Lakeview Center, you know, we have our screening team here that provides admission assessments for individuals who are needing to have a level of care to determine what's the most appropriate placement for them, if they should need placement or diversion, and linking to services outside the facility. So we're looking at individuals who are experiencing an increased behavioral health crisis or mental health or substance abuse crisis. So we are doing different types of evaluations to determine if they need inpatient placement. We are noticing that, of course, people are having more difficulty seeing providers during this COVID time because many people are not seeing clients face-to-face right now. So we're having telehealth, which has been wonderful for some people, but may not meet the needs if they don't have the technology or if they're not stable in terms of mental health.
like have, if it hasn't been a full year, I mean, if all these things aren't going on, and we're spending the same that we're gonna spend next year with the full year with all the expenses, all the staff.
Yeah, but your initial startup costs.
I
mean,
understand, yeah.
Yeah, so I think that you'll probably find a break even, or we may be a little behind in computers and copiers and utilities and insurance and the things that they've had to buy.
Okay. Well, I know we've got their lease on the agenda for tomorrow. So.
Yeah, so that's what I'm saying, you know, it's been a struggle getting all the documents in, so they've probably been, to Maryland's credit, they've probably been back to the board agenda 4 or 5 times since the original MOU.
Super. Commissioner Underhill.
I'm going to kind of just repeat the same comments that Commissioner Bender had. I'm looking at pages 6 and 7 of your application, and the questions are not answered at all. And I would actually expect to see more rigor than that by the time we get to funding or not funding, because you know, while I recognize that everything that was just said is absolutely accurate, this was this was a train wreck that, quite frankly, limited your leadership and us, you know, supporting you. You put it back on the rails. But the biggest part of the train wreck was, for me, was not necessarily the financial aspect, as the numbers that were being briefed to us, that, you know, that the return on investment was that they'd fielded 400 phone calls or something like that. Those were not real metrics. Those were not metrics that were verifiable or anything like that. There was nothing that we could do with that to see what the people of Escambia County were getting for their money. And so when I see the table that is in the middle of page 6 of your application, I mean, that's really where the rubber meets the road. That's why we spend the money, is for those things. And so if I mean, what I see on my chart here is blank. So if we're not meeting those needs, then what's happening to those people right now, or does that need not exist? And obviously that's a rhetorical question. The need exists, or we wouldn't have this committee. So I would hope to see see the rigor going into that and telling me, who are we taking care of here? And if we are taking care of people, then that should be an opportunity for you to stand before this board and say, you know, this number of people had housing discrimination cases, and out of the 12 cases, we were able to resolve 8 of them without going to court, and then we took the other 4 and gave them guidance in terms of legal assistance, things like that. That's what metrics here would look like, and I think that that's what, for myself, during the previous discussion that created this board, that's what I was expecting to see. So I won't kid you at all that I realize that it's hard to stand it up, but it is disappointing to not even have anything here showing that people were taken care of during this time. Because if that's the case, then I've failed.
And Doug, I concur, and so I'm going to help Marilyn out with this. In order to make sure the organization is strong, we need to make sure we have a solid foundation. And I could understand your logic and your reasoning, because the reason I stood behind this is because of the systemic racism and prejudice that exists in the workplace and in the housing that needs to be addressed. And so that's why I think that this organization is very much needed. But those metrics that you were referring to, those standards were not held when we first created Florida West or Visit, or the same things in the first year.
Can we add it now?
Well, okay, exactly. So I understand exactly where you're going, and I believe that we're going to get there. In Marilyn's task, so you know, Marilyn was not hired as our permanent executive director. She was hired to set up the organization and put protocols in place. And so I think our board believed that we would have someone to set up the organization, get the hiring, and so we would have real checks and balances in place once we do bring in staff. So I think she's done a great job of putting a solid foundation that we can hand this organization off. And so if it takes her another 6 months or whatever, the task from our board is, Marilyn, to make sure that we have a solid organization. Our legal department's engaged at every meeting. A lot of the paperwork that was not was the bureaucracy of government, you know, that landed on this desk of this dais. And so I can assure you that the passion from our board is to make sure that we address those social inequalities that we all know exist. And, you know, more than ever, with this civil unrest of our country and our county and our state, this organization is paramount for equality and equal rights.
There's little question. I don't think there's any debate at all on the things that you just said about why Marilyn was hired and what her primary mission is. Failure to do that would set in motion the cascade to failure that would repeat what we've seen on this board's predecessor, right? There weren't proper protocols in place. There was no solid metrics and that kind of thing. And it was allowed to move on, and in some ways, because of the emotional stigma associated with the issues that board did, we basically whistled past the graveyard on it. So you're right that we need to set this up in such a way that it is immune to the kind of behaviors that really damaged the predecessor organization. So I totally agree with all of that. My question is, I mean, did we really not serve anybody this year? Because the documents that I've got in front of me, that's what it says. And I think that's wrong. I'm sure that's wrong, right?
I would think that she's worked on, I know that she's filled a lot of phone calls. I don't know exactly what her case management is, but I would have expected her not to have done that. I would expect it for her to have finished the protocols. I mean, our EMS has worked 2-3 years on writing protocols and manuals. So, I mean, a one-shop operation is not going to be able to do the things that we couldn't even do within the entire county. So that's her task, and that's her task from our board. And so we want our protocols, our manuals, and all those things in place. And so I've watched Marilyn from the day-to-day, and so I would hope, Marilyn, as we get back with our case management, when those files come in, to bring a quarterly report. But as far as I'm concerned, you're doing a good job. Thank you, Marilyn.
And Commissioner May, if I may, Chairman Berry, I don't want to, my questions and comments are that we have the need for this and making sure that need in the community is met. Please don't see my questions or comments as anything other than that this is needed and that we want to make sure that the people that need that help are getting it.
Absolutely. No. I received that, Commissioner Bender. I just certainly didn't want I don't think there needs to be any preferential treatment for human relations, but the same standards, guidelines that we've held any new organization to would be what I would expect that same pleasure extended to the formation of this organization. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Yes, sir.
Thank you, Marilyn.
Thank you.
Yep. Thank you, Marilyn. Next speaker, or next partner is United Way of West Florida. Laura Gillum, I believe, is on Teams.
Good morning.
Good morning, Laura.
I am here to present our application for the community investment program, as well as 211 Northwest Florida. So just want to say, first of all, thank you for the previous funding. It's been instrumental in meeting needs and of the people in Escambia County. From the community investment side, what I can tell you is that the funding that you've provided in the past year provided over 11,000 hours towards summer camps and daycare, academics, counseling, life skills, and medical care. It provided over 36,000 meals and over 102 days of shelter. It actually, I think one piece of it that is important to know is that we were able to leverage those funds for a match of over $306,000. We are asking for funds this year similarly, but our focus is on the process. Our community investment process is very rigorous. It's volunteer driven. In the past 2 years, volunteers have donated over 700 hours towards this process. We ask agencies to provide us outcomes. We hold them accountable for that. We vet them so that we are ensuring that they are financially stable. And so what we are pledging with this investment by the county is to ensure that the funds are directed to financially stable agencies, that we are maximizing those matching funds, and that we are holding those agencies accountable for the use of the funds and for their outcomes. So I'll answer any questions that you all may have about this application.
Thank you, Laura. Board? Commissioner Bender?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Not necessarily about the, specifically to this organization, but with some of the ones, Madam Administrator, that are doing some programming that would maybe fall under CARES expenditures. I guess my thinking is it can't be used for budgeted items, but then if we don't budget it for next year, we have until December to spend it. So does that mean that we can just have them apply for that. And there are a few of them on here. I mean, I mean, right? I mean, if you can't spend on budget items, if you don't budget it this year, then they could possibly go after it. I don't know. I'm just
You might
saying.
be splitting hairs with the intent of the CARES Act if it was, you know what I'm saying, if you knowingly
Well,
didn't budget. There
I mean,
are
we're
services.
we're tightening our belts around here too. So, but go ahead. Thank you.
Yeah, I mean, I think that there are services that these organizations, particularly United Way and others, provide that would be eligible for CARES funding. But I think if you were to supplant their budget recommendation with CARES funding, that may be questioned. We would have to just ask what the consideration would be by those that are going to be auditing our records and those that would be approving our reimbursements.
Okay, and I understand that. I mean, I wouldn't want to do anything that was questionable, but on the other hand, it is, I think there is probably a greater need for some of these services in the current environment than, of course, we've seen in the past, and of course, greater than the requests that we've funded previously, and I guess in looking at some of these that, some of them are asking for a 3 times request versus what they received last year, so maybe in lieu of that or something. Okay, thank you. Thank you, Laura.
Super. Thank you. Board, any other questions? Thank you, Laura. Thank you for being here.
Sure. And so if there aren't any questions about that one, then I'll go to the 211 Northwest Florida
Okay.
application. We are applying for funding to support this program, which is a free information referral line. We serve 8 counties. Most of the calls come from Escambia County. Last year, we had about 13,000 calls, which resulted in almost 42,000 referrals. This year, have experienced a 300% increase in calls as a result of people calling who have been affected economically by the pandemic. We would never have expected that. So, our call volume varies from year to year based on circumstances. 2 years ago, it was very high because in the past, it's been high because of flooding and other natural disasters. We certainly didn't expect what happened this spring. We've been providing vital data to the county on a regular basis about where that call volume is coming from. So is the most requested service food? Is it utilities? Is it rent and mortgage? So we've been able to provide that to the county, which I think has been helpful in some decision-making moving forward. So 211 is there 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. It is vital any day. But it is even more critical during times like we're seeing right now, where there's so much uncertainty, where people are struggling and they're trying to connect with resources. So I'd be happy to answer any questions on this application as well.
Super.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir.
I know Brace is moving into our county building. Are you guys planning on doing any major relocation where all your services still exist on Government Street?
Our services are still here. We are not planning on moving at this time.
So not in the next 12 months, you guys don't anticipate any relocation?
No, we do not.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Robert?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just curious, and I haven't seen the call volume numbers, but in seeing the application, there was a request for more money from us, but not from the city. So just curious as to, have they not seen any increase in volume, or why would we not share that increase with them?
We were advised to maintain that level. We've seen increase in call volume lately. This application and the application to the city were submitted prior to this significant increase. So Since we serve the entirety of Escambia County, that was part of the rationale for asking for the 35,000 instead of the 25,000. And the ongoing relationship that we have with the Emergency Operations Center, and our partnership during times of disaster.
Okay, thank you so much.
Board, any other questions? Seeing none, thank you, Laura.
Sure, thank you very much.
All right, Board, next organization is ACTS, Another Chance Transitional Services.
Good morning, Chairman, and to the County Commissioners. I'm Pastor Leon Rankins, the Executive Director of the ACTS program. I want to thank you all for your support over the years. For the past years, our main component has been employment for our ex-offenders coming out of incarceration. But this year, we wanted to add 2 additional components. One was family reunification, and the other one, transition, because many of our offenders we were finding were reoffending. And unfortunately, getting them a job wasn't helping, because if they're still having the same habits that they were having prior to going into the jail, it's just a repeat recycle. So what we did this year was try to focus on dealing with those transitional barriers that they face, drug addiction areas, family support, all of those things that have kept them in that cycle. I am pleased to say that we have done well this year in spite of the coronavirus. As you all know, we serve a clientele that they're getting out every day. So the coronavirus doesn't affect our clients at all, from the county jail, state, and federal prisons. I do appreciate you all allowing us to come back before you. And if there are any other questions.
Board? Robert?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I guess I do have a question, and part of it just is with net income. I think probably something similar to last year when you have a large net income that's more than double the request from the board, or right around double the request from the board. You just...
Well, one of the reasons is nobody's on payroll at ACTS. They all volunteer, so all of our income goes to programmatic cost.
But it seems like there may have been a lot of dollars left on the table then for those programming.
Well, not this year. I'm not foreseeing what was last year's. I don't have the numbers in front of me.
The fiscal year 18-19 says that you had a net income of $54,000, and you're expecting $44,500 in net income this year and $48,500 in next year's budget.
Yes, and that income comes from our fundraising and private donations.
Yeah, but that's net income. So after all expenses have finished, that's how much you have left over.
Yes, sir.
So that's my question is with so much left over, what's the need for our sum that's half of what's left over?
Well, like I said, the programs that we added this year, the family reunification component as well as the transitional component, that's what that program money will go to. All of the other money that we let is for expenses, rent, utilities, insurance, all those things.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Board? Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, next organization is Council on Aging. I see John making his way forward.
Thank you very much, Commissioners.
Yes, sir.
Most of you are familiar with the Council on Aging of West Florida. We've been operating since 1972 with a mission of providing home and community-based services in the homes of seniors in our community. We serve Santa Rosa County, but our request is specifically for Escambia. We are requesting $45,000, and all that money is used as match for our federal and state money. We did receive a large influx of CARES emergency funding for meals this year, but of course that's time limited. And the services for Meals on Wheels, for example, went from $3,300 a week to right now it's at $8,900 a week. And people just for meals was $600 a week, and now we're serving $1,300 a week. So we received a huge demand and increased need for services, and having the influx coming in for these programs led us to realize that some of these people need services ongoing, not just once this is over with. We did receive a small increase in our state general revenue funding, so the local match is all the more important, and we're very grateful the governor did not veto that line item in the budget, needless to say. I also want to give a shout out to my staff and our volunteers when this pandemic hit, when it, it all hit the fan. We were just, in a state of panic, but we didn't lose any volunteers. And I'm just so impressed in this community. They just come by our office, went through our orientation, continued to volunteer. Our staff, despite the fact that many of them are my age, some of them are a little older, continue to come to work. I owe a great deal of appreciation to the volunteers and the community for stepping up to the plate and helping us during this difficult time.
Absolutely. Perhaps we could borrow your lobbyist. Didn't get your items cut out of that.
What did he say?
Perhaps we could borrow your lobbyist
Oh,
to
okay.
not have your line items cut. Commissioner Underhill?
Thank you very much. In the initial speaker today was Brace, the Be Ready Alliance.
Right.
And we had a short discussion there about resiliency of the county. And I want to reiterate, I am very deeply concerned about our resiliency posture here. I'm not even sure if we have a staffing plan, if we had a hurricane this week, that we would be able to staff our shelters. The population, one of the populations that gets hit the hardest in the state of Florida, and we've seen some of the most sinful things, elderly folks in an elderly home dying because of the air conditioners being off because of lack of generators, those kind of things. So if you could think through the discussion that we had about Brace, when I see something come back from our staff about that, what our resiliency plan is, if it does not include, that doesn't have evidence that you and your organization were a part of that discussion, I will consider it an incomplete document. So if you could please get with the staff and make sure that you've got the right phone numbers, that you are sitting at the table and you're a part of that discussion. The elderly are one of the populations that we tend to be out of sight, out of mind until a crisis time, and that's where we end up having to spend all of our energy. I would like to try to prevent instead of respond on that crisis. So please make sure that a rigorous addressing of the elderly is a part of that discussion, and I think the only way we do that is if your organization's sitting at the table when that plan is developed.
Absolutely. I absolutely agree with you.
Janice, that makes sense to you?
Yes, sir.
All right, thank you very
I
much.
did have a question, if I may.
Sure.
Exactly which pot of CARES funding were you able to get some?
It was CARES money. It came through the Department of Elder Affairs, but it was Older Americans Act money.
Okay, that's, I wanted to make sure.
Right.
Okay, thank you.
Super. Well, I think that the need for food specifically is something that has come to the forefront of
Right,
everybody's,
absolutely.
of everyone's attention, whether they be elderly demographic or not. It's been, very, very public. There's been, tremendous demand and a tremendous utilization of the resources that have been made available to citizens. And I think it's been somewhat eye-opening for all of us to see the utilization of that. So thank you, John.
Thank you.
Appreciate all your work.
Thank you very
Commissioner
much.
Mack. I'm sorry, Commissioner Mack?
And John, thank you for your partnership at the Edmundwood Community Center for the Seniors.
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
That's,
We're hoping all those sites will open not too distant future, yeah.
well,
Yeah, we switched all of those dining programs to a pick up and go, and it's been wildly successful, but it's the fellowship is so important that's missing in all this.
well, I think with our senior population, if we can continue to practice the social distancing and you're aiding in that, our recovery will be a lot quicker.
Okay.
Thanks, John.
Thank you.
Thank you, John.
Thank you.
Next organization is Gulf Coast Veterans Advisory Council.
Good morning.
Good morning.
I want to thank the county for your support in the past, and I solicit your continued support of the Gulf Coast Veteran Advocacy Council. As you know, we try to serve veterans. We're a group of veterans trying to help other veterans, and we will need your support in order to continue that effort over the years. We've been doing this for the last 10 years now, and you have been a partner with us, and we really appreciate that. And we added new programs and so forth. Of course, COVID-19 made things a little more challenging, but we still continue doing what we're doing because there are a lot of veterans out there that need help. And I know that the county has a veterans program that we want to partner with, and we have been partnering with, because judging by the number of calls and assistance that we give, I know that you can't handle it all. We have over 40,000 veterans in this county, and so that we just here to try to help to support their needs with their benefits and opioid programs and women veterans programs and stuff like that.
Super. I'm sorry. Please continue.
Sir?
Please continue if you were done. I'm sorry.
Okay, no, you continue. I'm sorry, I'm finished.
Commissioner May?
Go ahead, Commissioner Underhill was first.
Okay.
Thank you, Commissioner. What organizations on base are you coordinating with in your assistance to veterans?
On the Navy Air Station,
Yes.
well, the VA clinic is the one primarily we send people to and get the assistance from, and we work with the master chief at the NAS.
Okay, are you aware that there are other organizations paid for by the federal government on NAS and Corey Station that actually provide this exact same service?
Oh, yes, yeah, there's some certain organizations.
And
yes,
do you work with them?
No, we do not work with them. We are independent with those organizations. I do, like I said, we coordinate with them when we sponsor like the memorial programs and all that kind of stuff like that. We coordinate with those organizations in connection with the CO and the Master Chief out there.
Okay, I'm talking about actually, the primary purpose, the function, and I think the government function that we should be funding is ensuring that our citizens have the information and the access to their earned benefits. I mean, all of the other things are secondary and quite frankly should not be, in my opinion, should not be being paid with taxpayer dollars.
Right.
So the real number, and I think the metric that matters the most here is how many citizens how many veterans did you actually get access to a service that an earned service. I want to be very careful that we always mention that this was a part of the package when we signed up.
Yeah.
How many did you serve this year, in the last year, and were those services that they were unable to get from the other areas that are funded? Because like I say, we pay for a full-time employee for this purpose.
Yeah.
And then the federal government does actually a fairly good job in this town of making sure that they meet their obligations to its veterans. Lots of resources out there on base.
I don't know exactly what their metrics are, but and you guys measure, but I do know how many folks call us. We had over 300 people that called us, veterans called us they need assistance with their benefits, they need assistance with advice on how to handle their opioid programs. We have a veterans court program that we assist veterans in. A whole variety of issues that veterans has, they come to us, and I'm assuming they're not getting it from either the county or some of the other federal agencies, because we get more than our fair share of calls.
Well, that's the thing, and what I need to try to get down to here is that if there's 300 people calling you, why didn't the full-time employee that we have, was he not able to take care of them? Or did he not, or did people just simply not know to call him?
Well, that may be true. They may not know. I think they probably know how to call them, but probably one person with over 40,000 veterans in this county, I don't know whether he could handle the job by himself. I know Mr. Hoffman is a good man, and he, with the number of veterans and veterans' family members and so forth, I doubt that he could handle everything himself. And that's what we offering you, because we have opportunities to partner and help him. We have certified over 5 new veteran service officers this year. Okay. And that those veteran officers can assist the county in their efforts.
Yeah, then I know that you probably you did not intend for it to sound this way, but certainly our employee is not working alone. He's part of a very vast network, that includes the organizations on base. And to the best of my knowledge, which I think is probably pretty darn good, since given the circles that I walk in, that those services are being served extraordinarily well. So, thanks for your time.
Thank you, sir.
Commissioner May?
Vernon, thank you for your service No, I certainly appreciate it. I think two of the things that, I think we get a definite return on our investment. I'm one of those that believe we probably could never provide too many services for those who stood in harm's way for our safety, for those who risked their life. So when our veterans come back home, in any way in which we could help them, we should be helping them. But your stand down that I've attended, you did it at Salvation Army. I think you plan to do it at
Yeah.
Brownsville. I think that is something that your organization should be proud of, to bring that many veteran organizations and services and resources under one roof. I mean, that's certainly worth the ROI on the 10,000 that we gave you. And then your parade. I know how hard it is to get the parade and get the engineering and get that set up. And every year you guys have done a wonderful job at your parade downtown, and I know that takes a lot of effort and it brings a lot of recognition. I see all the ROTCs, I see the bands, I see the former POWs. You've done a great job, and so you'll find my support when budget hearings are here.
Yeah, well, I thank you because
And I think you should articulate on those things. I don't think your application actually replicates all the goodwill that you're doing in the community.
No, it doesn't. But those kinds of things, I think in recognition for veterans, we wanted to make sure that the veterans are recognized. I don't know before our organization that we did not have a memorial service on Memorial Day at Barranquez, and we didn't have a Veterans Day parade specifically for the veterans, and didn't have a stand down. So those are kinds of things that we do peripheral, but more important, we help veterans day to day. You know, the veterans call us, or their family members call us, and they want to know about benefits, they want to know about housing, they want to know about many different kinds of things that we as volunteers go one-on-one with individuals. And a lot of it is documented, but I submit that some of it is not documented, because we veterans, we all know who we are, and we have a network of folks that understands that if you have any questions and it get passed down from word of mouth to individual veterans, whether they're homeless veterans or they're just veterans that need help with their assistance. So we're there, and I understand that the federal government is doing a great job. I understand the county is doing a great job, but we also are there when people need us. And I just want to thank the county for supporting us so far, because we are, like I said, we are a volunteer organization. Our funds come strictly from volunteers. We had a little bit of drop in funding since COVID comes in. You know, folks don't donate. That's the only funding we have, and we have no paid staff as well. So, and we were able to get some Vista volunteers to help us, which really enhanced our ability to do what we need to do. But I want to thank you all for your support and continued support.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Thank you. Good seeing you, Mr. Watts.
Thank you, sir.
All right, board. Next organization is James B. Washington Education. Morning.
Hello, everybody. Good morning.
Yes, sir.
I just want to, first of all, say thank you all for all the support that you gave us last year. I'm just going to kind of go over a couple things that we've done and what we're trying to accomplish. With the assistance that you all gave us, we was able to give our kids, and we work with at-risk youth in the underserved community, and pretty much any kids that need any help that can benefit from our program. Our primary goal is to help them to graduate from high school and increase graduation. But at the same token, we're also trying to decrease juvenile incarceration and imprisonment. So we are being proactive versus sometimes being reactive. But with the funds that were given to us, we were able to have a Christmas party for those kids. And some of those kids wouldn't have gotten a gift. That was very helpful. We also had them in the Martin Luther King parade. We had about 24 kids, family members. They were very excited about that, to ride on the back of a truck or get in the parade and throw out candies. They enjoyed that. In February, we took the kids to Montgomery, Alabama, to the Rosa Parks Museum. They had a chance to go to the Legacy Museum. It was very educational. And one of the biggest themes there was from enslavement to mass incarceration. So it still kind of go with the theme that we're promoting. Then came March. Now March, in addition to our program on Mondays and Wednesdays, we have our basketball program. Tuesdays and Thursdays, the tutoring. So in March, we were going to have an awards banquet. Kids are going to dress up, we're going to feed them. I have the trophies. We reserved the place, everything intact. We think it was going to be an excellent fundraiser for us. We probably could have made between $8,000 and $10,000. Unfortunately, the pandemic hit. That put some things on hold. So the whole program kind of took a little shift. April, May, June, well, June we kind of got back together, was kind of shut down. However, what we did do, we made sure that we took food every month to each one of those families. Well, we fed at least 49 family members from April, May, June, and July. And that partnership was brought about with Laura Gillums, introduced us to Dee with Manna Food Bank. And they were very helpful for that. So now in June, things started reopening up somewhat. We came back and we finally did our summer youth enrichment program. The kids was very excited to get out the house. Now that program, we had to do it a little different. Last summer, we had about 16 kids in the program, and they came 5 days a week. We fed them breakfast, we fed them lunch. We took them on field trips. They did tutoring, math, English, science, and social studies. And the biggest goal there is to avoid the summer slide. This time when we did it, we're trying to avoid the spring and summer slide due to COVID-19. So when the kids came in, we had to break them up into two groups. One group came on Mondays and Wednesdays, about 6 or 7 kids. Then on Tuesdays and Thursdays, we had another group come in on Tuesdays and Thursdays. They had to wear a mask. We had to check their temperature. They had to wash their hands constantly, and when they changed classes, only 2 or 3 kids in the classroom, we had to move them around and then wipe everything down. It went very well. After they did their 3 hours, 2.5, 3 hours of education, they were allowed to play games, checkers, dominoes, chess, Scrabble, and then we took them on field trips on Fridays. The first Friday, we took them to Gulf Breeze Zoo. The kids enjoyed that. It was a tremendous success. The following Friday, we took the kids to Mobile, Alabama, to the science exploratorium they have over there that deals with dinosaurs. It was very educational. The kids enjoyed that thoroughly. Of course, we did feed them breakfast and lunch. Some of the kids were just happy to get there just to mingle, socialize. Some there because they wanted to eat. But they had a great time. So then the parents started calling on us to do it again the following week, which was this week. And we had planned on doing it, but with the numbers going up, we decided not to. Right now, we're having a lot of kids calling us about getting the kids in the program. Unfortunately, the space that we have is small, so we're trying to expand. We have a building, we'd love to expand into that building so we can social distance the kids. They can have their masks. We can have more kids involved. And the last part that we're working on, and hopefully by August, by the time school starts, if it does, we're doing the virtual training, virtual tutoring. So we've gotten some iPads, some computers. Some of the kids do not have computers. They don't have hotspots, Wi-Fi, some of the kids, so we're working on that. And we have the IXL software for education. And we want to make sure that the kids that I kind of work with, I need to get them on Zoom or Microsoft Teams, or we can kind of see and they check in and check roll. But we also can check and see what they are doing, if they are doing their work. We've had to cancel, not only did we have to cancel our awards banquet, our basketball camp, that's another fundraiser. We also had to cancel, we had a tuxedo and tennis shoe event planned that we thought was going to be really nice. We had to cancel that. And then we had like a celebrity basketball game. We was gonna get some of the celebrities around town to come in. It was a fundraiser, charged about $10 at Pensacola High School. Unfortunately, due to COVID-19, that was Father's Day weekend, which coincided with our father-son program. We have had to cancel that also. So we're here. We're still looking for new and inventive ways to try to work with the kids. I think the virtual training is going to be very good, but I think also we still got to find some things that we can do with the kids where they can kind of interact, social distance, communicate and talk, because they were just glad to get outside. I was hoping that like I said, thank you for what you've done. We was hoping that we could double up so we can kind of expand and we're in a building, we hope we can get the next 2 sections of the building so we can continue to serve more kids and observe social distance and continue to work in the community and try to do some positive things with these kids. That's pretty much it. Anybody have any questions about anything?
Super, thank you. Commissioner May?
Good to see you, Coach.
Thank you. Mr. May. Bye, guys.
All right, I don't see any lights on. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Y'all have a good
Yes,
day.
sir. Yes, sir. Next organization is New World Believers. Oh, Wildlife Sanctuary. Okay. 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 All right, super. All right, next organization is Pensacola Caring Hearts. Same.
I thought I saw him on Teams at.
Yes, it's Lee Avant.
Okay.
I'm the spokesperson for Pensacola Caring Hearts. And we want to first thank the commissioners for the past help that you have given us. And we are just let you know that we are doing all I possibly can to try to reduce the hunger in the Pensacola and Escambia County, Santa Rosa area. This past time, what's going on with the pandemic and stuff, we are having a hard time by keeping our food pantry stocked. But we have been getting grants from the Gulf Coast Feed America to be able to go into different neighborhoods and to fund it. So therefore, we've been telling the people that come to the pantry to come out to where the food trucks are. And due to this pandemic, we have been really overwhelmed with doing the food. We are considered as essential workers out there. We are putting ourselves in places where we are able to be volunteer. Our volunteer goes out and give out this food. This pandemic has really had has put a stress on it, because we have been doing like 5 trucks per month in different areas. And each week we was out in some area giving out food. So some months is 2 or 3 trucks of that week. Right now we are doing a food truck giveaway now at this time. So what I'm asking is for $50,000, and what that $50,000 is based on is that we want to include in our package face masks and sanitizer. This is going to cost quite a bit of money to add that in with it. So therefore, I'm asking y'all guys to please consider what I'm asking for, or either give an increase wherever it might be. I just thank y'all guys for being such good work that y'all do, and I want you to know that, hey, we're going to be blessed in Pensacola, Florida.
Thank you. Commissioner May?
No, it's good to see you, Mr. Avant. Tell Fannie Finkler we appreciate all the good work and the partnership that we've had with her. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Don't see any other lights on. Thank you, Mr. Avant. Next organization is Pensacola's Promise Chain Reaction. Good morning, Kristen.
Hi. Kristen Fairchild, founder and executive director of Chain Reaction. As you know, we're the Teen Leadership Institute. We focus on transforming teen potential into great talent for Escambia County. We do this in 3 ways. One is teaching them personal and social responsibility through service. The second is completing a resume learning plan each academic year, because a grade point average is only 1 line on a resume and the only requirement to graduate high school. And then the third is focusing on the importance of graduating from high school and selecting their educational path towards a career, if that is a 2-year, 4-year, or trade school. During the pandemic, we went virtual from April till June. We kept talking to the teens over and over again about opportunities in crisis and looking for what we could do. So we caught up on resume learning plans. They actually did service within their homes, and it has been a really good time to let these teens look for the positive, and they actually are getting to develop some great leadership skills, because most times teens aren't facing the same type of impacts that we are as adults. So we're trying to use this as a time to have them grow out of it and become a positive instead of the opposite. We were able to open our center starting on June 1st. We were following all the social distancing, wearing masks. We served 100 kids virtually, and now we're at 100 this summer. We're open Monday, Tuesdays, and Wednesdays, following all the CDC regulations. We should serve 160 by the time school reopens. And our program year goes from June till May. So I'm excited to say, with the funding you gave us last year, we exceeded all of our goals. We had 272 members. We did over 10,000 hours of service. We increased our internships from 48 to 54. Resume learning plans from 142 to 179, and our graduating seniors had $2 million in college scholarships. So I think it makes a huge economic impact in our community. We are really focusing on this year, as well as expanding into more at-risk students. We have 35 of our kids on free and reduced lunch, but we have been contacted by the UWF program that serves the homeless teens to work with them, the foster care kids in Lakeview Center, because they get to go to college for free, but the students are taking advantage of it. So we're using our resume learning plans to help those kids understand the steps that get them in careers. And so we're really excited, and we really appreciate your support each year.
Yeah, it sounds like a fantastic idea. Commissioner Bender?
Chris, I just want to say, for all the information that we always ask for up here, to see it especially broken down by zip code on what you all serve, I think is great. Hopefully, you could use this to leverage some funds from the city as well. I don't know if you guys ask and they say no, but with 33% just coming out of 32503 and 04, that it sure would be great if they could contribute even 20% or something of what we do. So just a little something to help you guys out.
And also, commissioners, I know you get asked a lot for helping, especially our young people. We have been able to develop an Elements of Success program where we take our program into another nonprofit. We've done that at Escambia County, and like I said, we'll be doing that with the foster care and the homeless. If you have a group, of course, there's funding attached with it that it costs, but we really believe that this can make sure that our teen citizens and the people that are looking for great employees, that this can kind of bridge that divide. So if there's any opportunities, we are always wanting to come to the table and collaborate as much as possible.
Christian, does the city contribute? I was listening to Commissioner Bennett. Does the city contribute to your program at all?
They do not.
Well, with your relationship with the mayor, maybe that would be a maybe that would be a
I will
good.
absolutely set up an appointment with Mr. Robinson,
No, I mean, he's
Mayor
got,
Robinson.
you know, a lot of experience and history with you.
I'm sure Christian will get some money from the mayor.
I hope so.
20%, right, Robert?
That's right.
I like 20%. I think that's a great idea.
Board, any other comments or questions? Thank you, Kristen.
Thank you very much.
All right. Next organization is Wildlife Sanctuary. Dorothy?
Good morning. I'm glad we're inside, not in the rain. I'm Dorothy Kaufman with the Wildlife Sanctuary of Northwest Florida. We appreciate all the funding you've given us in the past. We're still rocking and rolling. We do about 3,000 to 4,000 animals each year. We're open 7 days a week from 8 to 5 for injured and orphaned wildlife. We were able to keep our outside area open even during all of this, so that while people are displaced from their normal activities, we've got enough room outside that they can wander through and have a little bit of a break with the kids and things for education and all. And we appreciate everything that you've done. I'm here to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you. Did y'all name anything for Gary Sansing at the sanctuary? And just, if not.
What
I
a
think-
sweetheart.
I think
What a
that- I think
sweetheart.
that might be a good conversation for your board. He was a considerable advocate for you.
He certainly was, and we think of him very often.
Well, I can tell you, if there's anything that you're doing for Gary, you'd find my support. He was a
Thank
great
you.
advocate for this county. Matter of fact, that's a
appreciate
good
it.
idea, Mr. Chairman. I
Yeah.
would like, could you please look into that and get back to tell us what type of
Oh,
support you need from us?
absolutely. I've got contacts with his son and all, because I went to the service for it. Very nice gentleman.
Yeah,
So,
I saw you there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Thank
it was
you.
probably, I don't know, 30% of the time that he spoke to the board, he mentioned the wildlife sanctuary.
Oh, yeah,
It
he
was a
did.
high percentage.
I know.
yeah.
He was very passionate about that. And it's really flattering to have support everywhere. And he was definitely a spokesperson for us. Thank you.
Thank you, Dorothy.
Thank
Board,
you.
any other comments? All right.
Thanks
Next
so much.
Yes, ma'am. Next organization is Center for Independent Living, Northwest Florida.
Good morning, Commissioners. Thank
Morning.
you for having us. I'm Carolyn Growie. I'm our Executive Director. And I just want to thank you again for recognizing both our anniversary and the ADA anniversary as well while we're talking. The center has been working, as you know from that, for 4 decades with all different age groups, all different disabilities. One of the areas that's federally mandated now but unfunded by our federal grants and our state grants is to be working with youth in transition. And so looking at individuals with significant disabilities who are looking to make movement from school to career to life, and being able to help have some of those transition skills that will be able to help success move forward for them is what we are looking to envelop in our program. Right now, we work with a very small number of youth. We usually end up with individuals who are having significant difficulty within the school system, or sometimes with individuals when we work with a whole classroom. And we haven't done that as much from Escambia County for whatever reason, but we are looking to expand that. We have had some conversations with the curriculum director in the past year, and we're also looking at ways of integrating how what we do can be developed along with some of the other programs. So like you were hearing about the other program that was just speaking a moment ago. But for us, what it is looking at what are those access issues that keep somebody from being successful, going from being in the K-12 system to being on their own, and looking at how we can help support that further. One of the things that our program does have is that I'm originally from Michigan. One of our other team members most recently worked in Alabama, and then we have a member who is from here in Escambia County. So we have some parts of youth transition programs that have been implemented elsewhere in the country that we have associations with. And in our application, you saw information about a program that's in Oregon that's been very successful as well. So there is work on this happening across the country, and we would like to see the county be able to invest in their youth with disabilities towards our being able to do this. And I'm happy to answer any questions that you may have. We are looking for that number of youth that we have successfully achieved those goals to double. So we've done 20 in the previous fiscal year. We're trying to look at having 40 in the next fiscal year to be able to do things that are youth towards their own independence. And we're looking at being able to do a lot of the skill set pieces that would allow them to live independently, to get the supports that they need to maintain their employment, to have the adaptive equipment that they might need to be successful on the job or successful at home, all those kinds of pieces that would make that up. So if you have any questions, I'm happy to answer them.
Thank you. Commissioner May?
Oh, no, sir, I'm sorry. Thank you for your work.
Thank you.
Absolutely. Board, any other comments? Thank you.
No, yeah, just.
I'm sorry,
Carol,
Commissioner
I'm
Bender.
sorry we missed you the other day, and glad we were able to get the proclamation done, so.
Yes.
Thank you so much
Yes.
for all you do.
Well, thank you very much. And we, like I said, we appreciate that. And just to let all of you know that we are here for the community, and if there's ways that we can help you or your staff or your organizations, for those that are watching as well, we are happy to do that. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, sir.
Before we go to the next item, I'd
Yes, sir.
just like a moment of personal privilege. I just want to state for the record, the next organization that we're going to consider today is the Health and Hope Clinic. It's an organization my wife and I have supported for over a decade before I was on this board. Within the last 6 months, my wife was recruited to become the executive director of that organization. I'm very proud of her and the work that she's done. It's actually been almost a year now. With that said, though, it does present a conflict of interest, so unfortunately, or fortunately, whichever way you look at it, I won't be able to vote in support of it. But I strongly support the work they do. They have 200 healthcare professionals that volunteer their time for free, doctors, dentists, they provide dental care. It's just an amazing organization, and most importantly, they provide spiritual support for people who are lost. So it's an excellent organization. They've found that their volume is going up, and we're going to hear from them about the volume going up because they have not closed. They're free and charitable clinic. Folks that have no insurance and nowhere to go, that are in tremendous pain with teeth issues, tooth problems, they take care of them. They keep them out of the emergency rooms. It saves this county money. So just wanted full disclosure there, strong supporter. The only reason I cannot vote is because my wife is the executive director. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Absolutely. Super. So with that, the presenter for Health and Hope Clinic is going to be Sarah Davey, and she is with us via Teams. Good morning, Sarah.
Good morning. I appreciate the opportunity to tell you a little about our clinic. As you can see in our packet, the Health and Hope is a free medical clinic. Do I need to turn down my volume a little bit?
Yeah.
Okay. Free medical clinic for the uninsured. And our model is basically to provide primary care with wraparound services that include free labs, mental health counseling, pharmacy, and dental. We also provide free access to Narcan for anyone who's at risk of an opioid overdose. And we are the only free distribution site in our region. So who are our patients? Half are employed, over half are employed, and some are between jobs, especially now because of COVID, but many have significant health problems. So our goal is to get people healthy so they can be productive members of our community and our workforce. So our patient demographics are, there's about 45% that are minority and about over 60% are women. So our clinic's been around for a long time. We were established in 2003 and we've slowly grown over the last 17 years. Last year, Health and Hope provided over $2.5 million in medical care for our community. So we're able to provide comprehensive care at a fraction of the cost of most typical health centers because we have over 200 volunteer staff and partners that help us provide medical supplies and services. So we're asking for funding from the county for the first time this year. And that is because our board and staff they're really committing to providing quality health care for an increased number of our uninsured population. And many of our new patients are recently unemployed and displaced because of COVID. Now, the money that we are asking for is for infrastructure like upgraded electronic medical records and for supplies for our patients for their increasing need. So, of course, COVID has presented a lot of challenges for us, just like everyone. And we need to keep our patients and volunteers safe. So we definitely are going to need more supplies where that is concerned. The other piece that we're currently doing is rolling out a community vaccination program. And so we will definitely need funding because we would like to include the COVID vaccine in that program when it comes out. So we're not requesting money for salaries. That's all provided by a network of free and charitable clinics that we're part of. So even we have totally volunteer, over 200 volunteer medical and dental and lay staff, but we have not closed for a single day during the COVID crisis. So we just been here for our community and for our patients, either in person, and we've moved to a lot of telemedicine. That's really helped us a lot. So really our purpose has always been to just make sure patients don't end up in the emergency room for routine medical care. So when COVID all happened, we just felt fully committed, like we have got to take care of our patients. We've got to make sure they can get refills on their medicine because they don't need to end up in the ER. We just need to take pressure off those emergency rooms so they can really take care of the very sick and the COVID patients. So, we're all partners in helping get through this whole crisis. And when you allocate money to the Health and Hope Clinic, it's a great investment because last year, every dollar that was given to the Health and Hope Clinic, we provided $10 in medical care for our community. So that doesn't even include the cost avoidance of ER visits or hospitalization. So we measure our goals and they're easy to measure and they're reportable. So we can really follow up with just being completely transparent about what's happening here. And we just appreciate you considering our request. I'd love to take any questions you have.
Thank you, Sarah. Board, any comments or questions?
Mr. Chairman.
Commissioner Underhill?
Even in Escambia County's history of Grafton favors, I believe it is unprecedented for this board to consider giving $100,000 of the people's money to a nonprofit whose primary paid employee is the wife of a commissioner. Looking at the financial reports of this organization, it is impossible to separate this $100,000 of the people's money from $60,000 that would flow directly into the household of a sitting commissioner. When we take these jobs, we make sacrifices, as do our families. Family members of a sitting commissioner should make no attempt to touch a taxpayer dollar, and it's not enough to recuse oneself from that vote. The commissioners should reject this request. To grant the money would be yet another nail in the coffin of public trust. So I would ask that when this organization has worked for quite a while without a taxpayer dollar, for it now to come as a first time asking right after the wife of a sitting commissioner becomes the head of it, has all of the hallmarks of the kinds of things that cause people to look at government and believe that government no longer serves them. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman.
Sure.
That's a disgusting thing to say, Doug, even from you. Just underhanded, disgusting, terrible thing to say. Number one, this organization serves the people. I've supported this organization for a decade or longer, as does the community. Number two, if you read the backup, you would see not one penny, not one red cent is going toward a salary. What you're saying is just disgusting, underhanded, and just really beneath you, if anything could be. Gentlemen on the board, please consider this. I am not going to vote for it, but this organization does tremendous things. And if you did your research, Doug, you would know it. There are people hurting right now. They can't get medicine. This organization takes care of them. Don't penalize this organization because one guy thinks it's wrong. Doug, like in most instances, once again, you're badly wrong. You got it dead wrong. Thanks, Mr. Chairman.
All right.
May I comment, sir?
Sure. Yes, ma'am.
Health and Hope Clinic has been around for 17 years and we've served this community and offered millions of dollars. Before Ms. Vergash was actually recruited to be our executive director, our board had decided to really try to increase our patient load, to take some pressure off of our community because more and more people are becoming uninsured. So this really, really doesn't have a lot to do with our staffing. And right now with COVID, the need is even greater. Escambia Community Clinic, Community Northwest Florida, it does a great job. They do. They take care of a lot of folks in our community. But if you look at the map, there's a big area where their presence is not seen, and that's up in our zip code, which is 14, And they're seeing more downtown and then in the very north end of the community. So there is a great need. And a lot of our patients, transportation is an issue. So if they live in this area, then they can get here right on the bus route. So this isn't a political move at all. It's just a community need. So thank you.
Thank you, Board. Any other comments? Seeing none, thank you. Thank you for your time, Sarah. Appreciate the presentation. All right, next organization is Project Empower of Northwest Florida.
Hello, my name is Tara Potter, and I'm going to be the spokesperson for Project Empower. Project Empower started 8 years ago, and we do want to thank you all for considering. This is our first application for grant fund, and I wanted to tell you a little bit about who Project Empower is, since it is the first time you've seen us here. Our goal is to fill the gaps of support needed for people with disabilities so they can continue to grow and develop after high school. We have that as a primary goal, but also our goal is to reach out and be available to caregivers to provide support as well. We're located at Marcus Point Baptist Church in North Pensacola, and here we distribute resources to parents and grandparents and all caregivers of people with disabilities through our Parent Resource Center. We also hold events in conjunction with Escambia County Schools. Their transition events are held at Marcus Point, as well as Autism Pensacola holds their summer camp and other events throughout the year. And the Agency for Persons with Disabilities offers conferences specific to transition. So transition services, like you guys have heard from other organizations here today, is one of our main goals for people with disabilities. And really, our goal is to get everyone collaborating in the community. We have once a month it's a meeting that occurs on Tuesdays every month, and we try to get all of the agencies and everyone together to collaborate. The specific request that we made for funding is specific to a program that we do every Friday, again at Marcus Point Baptist Church, and this is from 10 a.m. in the morning to 1 o'clock in the afternoon, and life skills are trained to our neighbors with disabilities. With this grant funding in particular, we're planning on adding drug prevention training to our curriculum on a consistent basis. We have done a lot of life skills and social skills training over the past 5 years, but we would like to add another day because this day is really about making people with disabilities feel valued, help them gain confidence, and continually grow. Here in this program. Under mentorship, the way the program works is people that have been coming for a while really end up mentoring others that are newcomers to the program. So it's a really awesome time of just supporting one another, especially through these times of COVID. We're seeking to reach out at least online because we have not met since the COVID outbreak. And this has been a big change for our more than 35 to 40 attendees that come every Friday to share their best practices for living life. So we're looking to hopefully navigate through this time through internet connectivity. As soon as we can start meeting again in person, again, we do plan on adding that additional day, and your grant funding of $5,000 that we requested will give us the ability to add that additional day to the curriculum. Again, I don't know if I've said it yet, but this training is absolutely free. And it also is one that we encourage caregivers, parents, grandparents, anyone that is supporting our neighbor with a disability can come to this program and be a part of it, and it's free to everyone. Really, there's no other program like it in the county. Again, we started Project Empower 8 years ago. This particular day program started about 5 years ago. It was the seed money from a United Way grant fund in tandem with Autism Pensacola that started the program, and we have just been navigating through without any funding until you guys, we were able to make this application. So we're thrilled about that. I also want to tell you that Project Empower does have a parent resource center. They're in Marcus Point Baptist Church. There are full-time resource specialists that their job is to get information to parents and caregivers and people with disabilities, anybody who calls. They will get a designated person that will kind of walk alongside them and help them as they look for whatever their specific needs are. And there are tons of different types of needs that are individual to each family. We serve hundreds of parents each year, this being our 5th year for the Parent Resource Center as well. It started with 100 parents the first year, that grew to several hundreds the second year, and now we're in several thousands of parents that we serve. And this is through the 4 counties, Escambia, Santa Rosa, Okaloosa, and Walton counties. Caregiver Appreciation is also a program that we have for Project Empower. Just to kind of give you the scope of what we're trying to do, we have an annual Caregiver Appreciation Luncheon that's actually very huge in scale. It has grown as well year to year, and we serve over 100 caregivers now at Marcus Point Baptist Church with a beautiful Christmas meal. We also offer respite monthly at a Marcus Point Baptist Church to parents, and specifically parents that have children with autism, because we partner with Autism Pensacola, and we actually have very well-trained counselors that are on site for that particular respite. So Project Empower does a myriad of things that are specific to support to people with disabilities in our community, as well as their caregivers. I did want to just highlight that currently we're already, over the last 5 years, we've partnered with BRACE, the Be Ready Alliance that we've already heard from here today, for disaster preparedness for our attendees every Friday. We also partner, we talked about the partnership with Autism Pensacola, but I wanted to let you know that we offer community volunteer coordination through this program. We currently have 30 volunteers for the Friday program, and we also coordinate access to support groups, Bible studies, other ministries that are held through Marcus Point Baptist Church. And with the funding that we have asked for, we intend to add the drug prevention training and career exploration training in the additional day, as well as some financial planning for our attendees. We are actively trying to find iPhones and iPads, anything, technology that will connect our young men and women to the world right now, because they are isolated and many do not have any internet connection or connectivity devices. So that'll be something that is moving forward that we are certainly working through right now. We're working through streaming our Friday program curriculum and getting that online. And then next will be the need to connect the people that we serve. And we are hoping that through this effort, our website is updated, ready to go, ready to roll this out. And we're hoping that we will reach even more young men and women with disabilities through the streaming of our Friday training. I think that's a good overview. I would just like to open it up for any questions anybody might have about Project Empower.
Board, any questions? Seeing none, thank you very much. I appreciate the presentation.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. All right, Board. Next is Reentry Alliance Pensacola. Morning.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir.
Commissioners, and county staff. I'm Vinny Wibbs, the Executive Director of Reentry Alliance Pensacola, generally referred to as REAP. This is really kind of our first request before the board in a formal manner. So to give a very brief interview report on what we've done for the last 6 years, we have been providing an increasing range of transitional services to both men and women returning to Northwest Florida, primarily to Escambia County, mostly from state prisons. During that period of time, we've assisted more than 750 individuals with what we call our intensive case management program. In the last 2 years, we have enlarged our program now to provide housing and transitional services to women. We are primarily funded from the Florida Department of Corrections. 6 years ago, we didn't have a budget at all, and now our budget is in the range of a little bit more than $500,000. And we're a little unique. This time, we are asking for the county to provide funding for a new type of program. I know you've heard about it, but we are asking for funding for a day reporting center. And basically, we're proposing a budget of approximately $250,000, looking for $100,000 from Escambia County. The remaining money would come from the Florida Department of Corrections, from REAP itself as part of an in-kind contribution. And because we will be charging some fees to individuals that are participating in the program, we expect it to be funded that way. Most importantly, about our program, we believe that a properly operating day reporting center could save Escambia County a substantial amount of money. The idea is that you're going to take those individuals who have bonds that are set at less than $2,500, individuals that have been violated and are awaiting a hearing on that, other individuals that may be in some form of a pre-sentencing trial diversion program. We can take these individuals, and REAP would go through an initial investigation, interrogation with them, find out what their needs are, and develop what I would call a compliance plan to make sure that they are doing those things that they ought to be doing. We would operate a facility close to our facility right now where we are at over by Baptist Hospital. And the number of individuals that could participate in this program, at any given time, we see right now that probably about, any given day in the county jail, about 55 people or so have bonds less than $2,500. There's always about 70 people that are awaiting a BOP hearing. And a number of people, if we categorize in cooperation with the judicial system, a certain specified misdemeanors and perhaps some very low-grade felonies, we could have other individuals that could participate in this program. Every day we keep that person out of a county jail is going to save the county probably $75. And it's a way of providing an awful lot of funding for a lot of programs. I can take pride in knowing that over the last 6 years, REAP has provided a program that has resulted in a recidivist rate of approximately only 10%. And we feel like we could do a similar kind of a program with these individuals and would request the support of the county for this.
Commissioner Underhill?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Mr. Wibbs. Have you communicated with, and other times when we've had discussions about a day reporting center, it's come up a couple of times during my season of service here, and the communities that I've gone to see what their actual return on investment was some pluses, some minuses, some up, some down. Historically, when this has come up, members of our judiciary and members of our law enforcement here have generally been fairly cool toward the effectiveness of these. Have you, in this plan, have you engaged with those entities? And do they
We
support this?
have in the past talked to various organizations that would really be the key players in this kind of a system. And in order to be successful, let there be no doubt that you have to have the support of the judiciary. You have to have the support of the correction people. To the extent that you have their support will result in the success of the program. If you're not putting people in, if you're not controlling the way that they come out, you're not going to have a successful program. But there are a number of successful programs throughout the state of Florida and in other parts of the country that have had a successful day reporting center. And I am convinced that we can do this. Now, part of the reason why is because we've had this 6 or 7 years worth of experience. We know what it takes. Obviously, we're dealing with the people that are coming out of state prison. But I can tell you that you can have that same kind of dedication, the same kind of interest in the individuals that are coming in the early stage. They're just now being just as involved. And if you work with them at that point in time, you can be successful. The good news is that although $100,000 is a lot of money, I can tell you that the potential savings to Escambia County could be 10 or almost 20 times that if you have a full-blown program that is really successful. It frees up an awful lot. And I would say to you right now that perhaps the lessons that we have learned, and Connie Buckman was talking about some of the benefits of the COVID right now, we have seen that there's a need to keep the numbers down of individuals that are presently incarcerated. There's a reason why we don't need to have a number of people going through the judicial system. And I'm suggesting to you that the lessons that we have probably learned over, the hard lessons that we have learned over the last 3 months, is something that this may be the time to go ahead and let's try to make this thing work. I believe that we can do it.
All right. Then again, I want to reiterate, because you actually stated very clearly that it's key to have those relationships and for all of those primary players to be on the same sheet of music. And what I have seen in my experience with this is that those that where you didn't have that, they did not produce the kind of results that were promised. And those where they did, where everybody was on that same sheet of music, then you have a higher rate of success. So I would ask that you, knowing and recognizing that that really kind of is your biggest precursor to success or failure, before we fund the our portion of this responsibility, would it not be appropriate for REAP? And I think that REAP would be, of all the organizations that I know in our community, would be the logical lead for that. Would it be appropriate, or would it be possible for REAP to go ahead and get and include in their request for the funding those letters of support from our judiciary and from our law enforcement, since we know that really is the critical precursor to success?
Let me say that in the past, and we've made a couple applications for Department of Justice grants in the past, and we have actually solicited and received memorandums of understanding and memorandums of support. But I will make it a point to go out over the next several weeks and get very specific letters of support from both the judiciary, from the court administration system, and from the Sheriff's Department, Corrections Department.
Yeah, and I'm assuming, although, I mean, obviously, so the Pensacola would be a partner in this as well, right? We would
That's correct.
Okay, so, you've got, it would be a great opportunity to say from the outset that all of us in leadership roles and responsibility roles are on the same sheet of music, and that we recognize and we are committed to this. And I think that if we do that up front, that's going to force us to kind of look through all of the things that could fail. It's just like kind of going into that first marriage, right? You're always thinking about all the things that'll make it, about how great it's going to be. But experience teaches us that we should spend most of our time focusing on why could this fail? Why could we fail to meet these objectives? Because I will tell you, I have always struggled with this aspect of our society. When people spend time in jail for things they did wrong, they are being punished as is appropriate. But then we have an obligation. I've never understood why a felon doesn't get his rights back automatically when he gets released from the jail. That doesn't make any sense. You've done your time, you've served your penance, you then become a 100% American just like everybody else, I would think. So this failure, this part of our society, we have repeat offenders in part because we don't do enough to fix the problem. Yes, we have to punish those who need to be punished. That's an inherent part of human existence. But we're not doing enough in this area to prevent them from getting back on the same path that got them there to begin with. So I'm very supportive of it. What I'm looking for is making sure that this is a comprehensive approach, that all of us in leadership and responsibility roles are committed to this before we start throwing money at it.
I will make my best efforts to present to the board for consideration before you get to the final voting. Letters of support, memorandum of understanding with the appropriate key players.
Thank you, Mr. Webb. I appreciate that.
Are there any other questions?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Vinny, good to see you.
Yes.
Vinny, I know we've had a couple other groups to present this morning as it relates to incarceration and recidivism and aftercare, pathways, acts. Do you work with any of those organizations?
Absolutely. Let me first say, I don't know whether Connie is still here, but I don't really believe that there would have been a reentry program in Escambia County without her early leadership. I'm going to say 10 or 12 years ago when she was first with Baptist Healthcare.
So would y'all be able to collaborate with a program like this?
We certainly would be able to.
And the reason I say it, because it's going to be limited funding.
That's right.
And so the duplication of services was always an issue. If we can partner to make sure that if we're all trying to achieve the same goal, how do we do it the most efficient way?
I know, and let me say specifically Bishop Rankins with the ACTS program, we have worked with him on a regular basis over the last 4 or 5 years. On a regular basis, we're shifting people back and forth and referring people back and forth because there's some things that we can do, some things that he can't do, and we do it that way. I'd also like to say, and I would be remiss, one of the benefits of sitting here for the last couple hours is that I've had the benefit of seeing a number of presentations by organizations that have been most helpful in the program that we do. And I'm sitting there, and you can go down the litany, and you can talk about Lakeview Center, and you can talk about the United Way, and you can talk about the various organizations, legal services, all of those organizations on a daily basis we work with. And the secret to having community partners is that the net result is that you can have a much better program for your entire community.
I would encourage you as well is to get with our corrections department, because this, I may not, in my opinion, see this as an outside agency function, because when people are placed on probation and aftercare by the judiciary, it becomes a responsibility that we have to have. And so I've seen these day reporting centers many times come out of the corrections department. And so, I mean, that may be a conversation, Vinny, that you should be having with our corrections as well before we get back to September.
In that respect, I'd like to say that the last 2 houses that we have opened up, now these 2 happen to be for 2 women's houses. Chief Powell made it a point to come over and spend some time with us. I feel like we have a good relationship with him. And you're right, it's got to be, in order for this thing to be successful, you're going to have all the players in it.
Yeah. And have the right location.
And have what?
The right location.
Yes.
Thanks, Vinny.
Commissioner Schmidt, could the same argument be made for Pathways for Change?
What argument?
That it doesn't necessarily be seen as an outside agency if it's, helping us and keeping our numbers down and, should that.
I'm sure that could be an argument, yeah.
Okay.
I mean, yeah, I mean, I think that's worth having a conversation if it's reducing recidivism and it's taking away the population of the jail, and it's, a efficient or cost savings to our correction budget. I mean, we went to budget yesterday. I mean, when you look at our correction budget, it's huge. So I'd be open to that, Commissioner Bender. Thanks, Vinny. You are your
Thank you.
daddy's,
Thank you
are
very
your
much.
daddy's son.
Our board, thank you. So that works through our list. We did get cut off earlier on the phone call or the the Teams meeting with Chandra Smiley. I don't know if she's back on the line.
No, she wanted to be seen in person.
Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't see her walk in.
That team didn't
Okay.
go too well for her.
Well,
Yeah.
no need for cameras here. Chandra, you're welcome to come forward and kind of finish the discussion we were having this morning.
Well, I apologize for the interruption. We had a car on fire that was parked right next to one of our clinics, so we had to evacuate. So we were under a
Goodness.
code red when, as that was going on. So, but I thank you. I don't know if I answered any of your questions. We did abruptly have to stop our conversation. But I just want to say that I appreciate the continued partnership and support from the county. We've been a partner for many years, and we're able to utilize the dollars that you award community health to leverage additional dollars through low-income pool match. Last year, we took care of close to 55,000 individuals, of which over 9,000 were uninsured residents of Escambia County. And each year, our capacity to increase access to care has continued to grow year after year. And so, with COVID testing, certainly in partnership with the county, being able to offer points of access that are accessible and can accommodate large numbers of individuals coming in for testing, Certainly would not be able to have done that without the support of Commissioner May. And so I just, I'm here to answer or follow up with any questions that you may have for me. And again, apologize for the
No,
abrupt
not at all.
departure.
Commissioner May?
No, I think all my questions were answered, Ms. Smiley. We do appreciate your partnership. I think you were beginning to elaborate before you had the emergency on kind of where we were from a community standpoint on COVID, if you wanted to finish that.
Yeah, so we have been doing mobile COVID testing since the middle of March. And how we originally stood that up is we were pulling staff from other clinics and different positions to help fill that need. We're now in a position where we can have a full-time mobile testing team, and that's what they do. We have received CARES funding and HRSA funding to help support that. And so we can provide that service and that access through the end of the year, if not into the first quarter of next year. Our testing is free. Anyone without insurance or regardless of ability to pay is eligible for testing. We're not doing any pre-screening requirement. We just want, if you feel that you need to be tested, we want to make sure that you have access to testing.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Commissioner Bender?
I just want to thank you for all your effort. I'm over here today.
Sorry.
I want to thank you. It gives me a chance to really spread out. It's nice. But just want to thank you for all your efforts that you've done. And of course, I think two of the things that, like at least getting the community testing and multi-satellite sites was we were way ahead of the curve for other places in Florida, and being able to not have the pre-screening, which my understanding is still being done in parts of the country to be even get a test. So the fact that we have those two things, I think sets us apart, and it helps us in at least knowing information as we fight this disease. So thank you for all your organization has done, not just with COVID, but with all the other services they provide the community.
Thank you. I do want to say I was on a call, I think I mentioned this earlier, I was on a call with other CEOs throughout the state, and one of the common themes that other CEOs are facing in their communities is working closely with their county government and their EOC. And I want to say that we are a great example of how that partnership can work well. And I just thank you for that partnership and being able to do the testing with the rapid response that we were able to, and with the volume. We got supplies from the EOC. Anytime I made a phone call, there was a quick response. And so I've got other CEOs throughout the state that are quite jealous of the partnership that we have. So thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you, and I appreciate you coming down. I think we all knew something was going on, so we
Business is back as usual.
Yeah.
If we can say that. But
Thank you.
thank you.
All right. Board, I believe that's gonna finish our community partners portion.
Mr. Chairman.
Oh. Yeah, I believe that's gonna finish the item 6 on the agenda, the community partners, the general fund portion. Now we're on to next set, Commissioner May.
Yeah, and I know it's just workshop. In my presence, it's not necessarily deemed, since this is probably the first one I've been able to get to, but at about 10 to 12, I'm going to be leaving.
Okay.
I don't know what your timetable is today.
We'll see. We'll
If I get up and walk out, I mean, that's
Okay.
no problem. I just wanted to
Super.
just inform you. But I mean, I can come back. I'll just have to step out for about 15 minutes.
Well, hopefully we'll continue to work through as quickly as possible.
Okay.
So the next item on the agenda is going to be the first 3 cents tourist development tax, which is all going to be related to visit, which I think is just going to kind of take us to the visit discussion.
Mhm.
Madam Administrator, do you
Yeah.
want to do something first and then kind of get into it?
No, sir. We've provided you with the information as to where we are today on the collections. And then you also have the report from Visit, that the position paper that they've provided. And then we just wanted to also provide this update. This is in the proposed budget.
Okay, is it just the one slide?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And I don't necessarily have forms, but I don't know if Darren would be the main point person for visit discussion?
Yeah. Did they fill in?
Good morning.
Good morning. We had sent out a two-page update. Did you receive that? Okay, great, fantastic. I'm Darren Schaefer. I'm the president and CEO for Visit Pensacola, and joining me today are my peers of the Unified Budget, Ray Palmer, the president and CEO of Pensacola Sports, and Matthew Hoffman, the board president with ACE. Visit Pensacola is the lead organization for building tourism as the economic engine in Escambia County. We're created to invest TDT in tourism and promotion and advertising to increase visitation to the county. We provided that two-page update to the funding request that originally was submitted back in March, and that was prior to the full impact of the coronavirus pandemic. So our original request was adjusted then to $8.275 million by the Office of Management and Budget in April. As you know, due to the pandemic, TDT collections have decreased significantly from just $13.75 million last year to $10.73 million estimated this year, which is over a $3 million cut or 22% less. For next year, and I'm looking at numbers that seem to be moving a little bit, so my numbers are going to be very close. That's a little bit different number than I've seen before, so I apologize if I'm in the ballpark but not exact on. But we're looking at, for next fiscal year 21, reduced amounts of another 9.6% or just below $10 million. And the last time that TDT collections were this low was back in 2016. As a side note, in that year, 74% of the TDT was invested in tourism, advertising, and promotion through the Unified Budget. So in the past, our three organizations, known as the Unified Budget, we requested 100% of the funds available after Escambia County commitments and approved amounts for outside agencies. We then also requested 100% of any excess collections at the end of the fiscal year. Historically, this has resulted in 65% or more of the TDT receipts being invested in tourism, promotion, and advertising. And that's done through Unified Budget, and that's been each year for the last 6 years. This high priority use of TDT for tourism, promotion, and advertising has proven successful because we have seen an impressive growth in collections of 35% or $3.2 million over the last 4 years. The fiscal year budget as presented currently has the Unified Budget receiving approximately 54% of the TDT receipts, or just over $5.4 million. I'm seeing on the slide it says 61%. So that's a little bit of a change. When you combine the lower projection for TDT receipts and that 54% percentage of receipts, the Unified Budget would have been decreased by $3.72 million, or just over 40% cut compared to last year. We understand that these are difficult times. We have been making difficult decisions to reduce our expenses, and we know that more will have to be made. There is less TDT, and that is a fact. Agencies like ours that receive TD need to expect to receive less, because that is the situation we're in. The use of TDT in these times should be prioritized for the best return on investment. For the Unified Budget, a 40.8% cut is devastating. It means significantly less marketing. It means staff layoffs and major changes to grants and other programming. For Visit Pensacola alone, we're looking at a reduction of $1.63 million in marketing, as well as laying off a total of 6 full-time staff positions, or really a 43% reduction in full-time positions since I've arrived in Pensacola.
Darren, if you don't mind.
Yeah.
I appreciate you providing us the Unified Budget with the estimate that you have, given the estimate that you got out of the Administrator's Office. And, you know, and Robert serves on the TDC, I don't, but my perception of the value of the Unified Budget and you know, the reason that it's so supported is you've got these, you know, you've got a base top line number, and then it's going to break it out by percentages within there. So when I look at these percentages, you know, there's a reduction. I mean, there's the orange column, you know,
Yes.
that reflects the, you know, if the numbers stayed exactly as they were presented to you, this would be the impact. So I see what you're talking about, the reduction, specifically in the spending on Showcase, but you've taken a much larger cut out of Showcase than the percent. You've got 35% of the current year budgeted going to Showcase. You've got 20% of this amended fiscal year 21 going to Showcase. So you're taking a much larger proportion out of the Showcase spend than you're taking out of other things. You're actually, you know, you're doubling the percentage on the marketing research line item. You're doubling the percentage on the internet site production line item, which, you know, is a couple $100,000 a piece. But then you're basically taking the lion's share of the reduction out of the Showcase spend there. Why would you not keep the same percentages if the value in the unified budget is this percentage allocation?
So please know that when we take a look at the direct programming, there are a number of things in research and in the website that are contractual, that are commitments that we make every year. You can almost call those fixed costs for having the website and all the improvements that we continue to make that, for doing the amount of research that we do. So when you look at the dollar amounts, they aren't necessarily significantly different
It's $180,000
than
extra.
previous years.
All right. Specifically, your marketing research is going from $300,000 to $480,000. That's $180,000, and it represents more than twice the percentage of the current fiscal year budget if we looked at this lower amount.
Sure.
Are you in a contractual arrangement that you're committed to that much of an increase when we have a huge decrease on revenue?
So two things. The $300,000 is the fiscal year budget where it is now for 20. Just last year, we spent $534,000. In that amount is private dollars and up to $125,000 for implementing a strategic planning session. We have finished up the 2020, and now we wanted to look forward to a 2030 plan. So a big piece of that is the strategic planning, which if we can't do, we can't do.
Well, I mean,
but that's why that number is
I mean,
higher.
I'm not going to nitpick the way that you spend your money. I mean, you provided this detailed budget for us, so I'm going to work with the information that you gave me.
I understand.
And what I've been told historically is the value is in the percentages being split up, that the members and the people that are stakeholders in your organization, that's why they like the unified budget. But I see, you know, I can't help but notice the glaring, you know, cut to Showcase when other programs are being increased, even in a, you know, a terrible, what's going to be, no matter what the outcome of these budget discussions, even in September, no matter what, I mean, it's appears as if it's going to be a less revenue year.
And I
at a
appreciate
minimum.
you're noticing that. There are a number of things that we do amongst the staff that we've been able to take over as staff, and paying our staff to do that work, different from an agency doing that work, is a significant savings. So as our staff evolves and becomes, the professionals that we have are able to take on additional duties, we have been able to redirect some of those duties from Showcase to do.
So you would have been decreasing the percentage of spend on Showcase no matter what the county revenue would have done?
No, we're only decreasing because there's a couple $1 million less of money to invest. All that, those additional dollars would go into Showcase. So if you look at the difference between, I should say the majority of it, if you look at the difference between 54% in the green column, which is 65%, Showcase gets the brunt of that. We have a $750,000 portion of that maybe $1 million difference. Because what I will say that we are really proud of is the unified budget is broken out between our three organizations based on historical percentages. And so we've come together on a memorandum of understanding that 75% of the unified budget is allocated to Visit Pensacola, 15.25% to ACE, and 9.75% to Pensacola Sports. So on $1 million, we get $750,000. $558,000 of that is going straight into the Showcase budget. There are some percentages here that you've noticed that I noticed as well that I would move, But the only other change is in payroll for us. I'd like to claw back one of those staff positions, a sales position, somewhere during the course, maybe 6 months into next year, because we are cutting sales and services that are important aspects of what we do.
All right, and is it accurate that the line item for the micro grants is, and I can't see the whole title of the line, but where it says festivals and events and then G, it's line 5140?
Yes.
It's current year budgeted 375,000. Is that the line for micro grants? What line is that?
That is not.
What
That
is-
is for grants, and that program was paused earlier, last month.
So it's not micro grants, but it is grants.
It is grants, it's not the micro grants. We do have micro grant dollars in there for $30,000.
Okay, so just much smaller. So that's your regular grant, that's your normal grants.
Yes.
So basically, no matter what we look at the budget, you're eliminating the grant line that I think has been important, and based on previous discussions with this board, that's something that's been important to this board in the past, is that you hear grant recipients that the board wouldn't necessarily hear. So that $375,000 is something that historically has been, and I realize you have a very short history with the county, but historically, that's been a portion of visit that's been important to the board in the past.
The committee has looked at, the board has voted on that based on committee recommendations, looking at our current environment and the ability to hold events. We've canceled many events. Events are canceling already into October. Bay Center isn't taking on a lot of additional events until February. We looked at that. We looked at the program. We looked at the best use of funds, knowing these cuts are coming, and that decision was made. The best return on those investments.
Okay. All right. I apologize. Can't
Mr.
the
Chairman.
time so far. Commissioner May?
Yeah, just for clarification, how long are you eliminating the grant program for partner agencies to do events?
We paused the program for the coming fiscal year,
Meaning from October 1, starting,
October 1, and then we would reintroduce the grant application process in the spring for grants that would start October 1st of '21.
and you, just because you project that there won't be venues to utilize, what if some sense of normal daily comes back? I mean, are you gonna implement that, or is that just gonna be eliminated? If we can peak and break the curve and get a vaccine, I mean, coming into next spring, will you reinstate this, or is it gonna be eliminated out of the budget completely?
If there's additional dollars, we certainly could, but you're talking about the prioritization. I don't know how many more staff I can actually cut. Taking further dollars away from Showcase is not the best use of those dollars. When we look at the program, there's lots of great events that access it, but we also have some number of events that have been accessing it for third and fourth year, so they're coming off the grant program anyways.
Right.
I agree, it's
I
a
understand,
great
but
opportunity.
I do share with the chairman that from where I sit, these events, and a lot of these events are very important. But I certainly understand your committee's recommendation of the decision that you've made, but I do agree with my colleague that these events are critical. If it
We're
comes back,
making
but-
difficult decisions that are not going to be popular. I have a very good understanding that I'm going to be getting yelled at by a number of people that are used to asking for and
Well, join the
receiving
team.
money from our organization. And what I can offer is what we do best is our expertise in marketing and our distribution channels, and taking advantage of those to their fullest capacity.
Understood.
If you don't mind, Darren, I've got one more question. It's about a line on here.
Yes.
In-kind expense, what exactly, I don't even understand what that phrase is. I'm not familiar with that in any kind of budget before.
Well, I asked about it too. In-kind expense is more of an accounting general ledger item that refers to our office space. If we had to pay full market price for that space, what would that dollar amount be? We assign that, and that is put in kind. Is that right?
Yes, it is. It is for the rent of the buildings. We pay $10 a year for the rent on the building at 1401. We pay zero for the rent of the building in Perdido Key. And so for the accounting during GAAP and our audit, we have an in-kind expense revenue, which matches the in-kind expense line. We also utilize the county's assets. So when we buy an asset that's over $1,000, it is capitalized by the county.
Okay, if you don't, do you mind coming forward? I apologize. Do you mind coming forward to speak at the podium?
My name's Kimberly Sparks, and I'm the
Hey there.
director.
Yes, ma'am. So, all right, I don't see the, I don't, okay, I understand what you're saying, but I
Okay.
would, in that vein, I would expect to see that offsetting revenue. Is that the line that says gifts in kind goods?
Up at the top, it is line number 4400, gifts in kind goods. And if you go all the way over, you see 164.
Okay, that would,
I'm sorry.
that, in my opinion, that wouldn't indicate free office space.
So-
Goods wouldn't indicate free office space, in my opinion, that it
That's
doesn't
just
matter to the budget.
general
but-
ledger name. I can absolutely
okay.
change it is an in-kind expense and an in-kind match.
Okay, all right. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
All right, I apologize, Board. Commissioner Bender?
Darian, you mentioned the breakout of the unified budget. Is it different when there's a supplemental budget that's added later?
That has been how it's happened in the past, and this memorandum of understanding basically has addressed that and simplified that process. So it is that percentage, so that if a supplemental was to come in, that we apply the same percentages.
Okay. I think, though, that the numbers you referenced for 2016 include a supplemental budget. So those were not the ones that were budgeted, say, at this time in 2016 or 2015. Would that be an accurate statement?
Yes.
Okay. So I think to try to compare the two is not entirely apples to apples, because looking at what we've collected, I think it's important that, and I don't know what the board knows, but the 2016 number was determined in a meeting that you had with the county administrator. What did you guys not all sit around a table and say, what's the number that we think we can collect? And 2016 was the number that was thrown out.
Yes, and that was referenced by a member of the unified budget, yes. And when we looked at the number, we were looking at 74% being assigned to TDT, of the TDT to our unified budget.
But that was after the fact. That was not, I mean,
Well,
one of the meeting is to work out those details with our county administrator.
Sure.
And so then to leave the meeting and then go, whoa, that's not what we want. I mean, we've got to figure, I mean, honestly, I think maybe even the 2016 amount is going to be a stretch given the current climate.
There's unknowns.
There's unknowns. And the thing I have heard from the last 2 weeks from members is we need more money. I haven't heard a number. And I've told them all, and I'll tell the board here now. I don't think that visit should be the only, or the unified budget should be the only thing to get cut. I agree with those comments that it shouldn't be the only thing to get cut. But to come in, the reason you got the budget that you got in 2016 was because we had a really good 2015. We don't have a really good 2020. And so to try to then say, well, we want the budget that we had budgeted plus the supplemental because of a really good previous year, it, again, isn't apples to apples.
I can appreciate that. And in the past, there were dollar amounts that were assigned, and we're talking more about percentages based on historical investments that can go up or down based on what actually happens. And we make cuts or adjustments accordingly. So we weren't looking at it really at a specific dollar amount, but a percentage of receipts based on historical investments over the last 6 years.
But Okay, I'm sorry. So how would that change? I mean, well, yes, you're looking at the percentage of the supplemental included.
We're looking
If
at
you're
what the
Darren, hold on a
county
second,
number
hold on,
that they
hold on a
gave
second,
us.
Hold on. Okay? If you're looking at the exact number that was budgeted in 2016, and you got that number, then the percentage is the same. If you then get a supplemental, then and you get 100% of it, then that percent would go up.
Right. And we're not necessarily saying what we've done in the past is what we should be doing going forward. So rather
think
than.
We also have to realize what we've done in the past isn't going to be viable next year. I mean, we typically pre-fund some of the operating expenses for the next year, and even that might be a stretch this year.
That's correct.
So, again, I think, here's the thing. We don't have to make a decision on this today. It's not until September that we have to sit down. We get more data between now and then. And so, like I said a minute ago, I don't think that we need to look at that the unified budget's the only area that gets cut. But we need to, instead of just saying we need more, I think we need to come up with what that number is.
Understood. Our goal is to show you what happens when we're looking at 54% of the TDT projected receipts, what that looks like and what it looks like at 65%, which is about $1 million difference in TDT receipts.
Right. Did we not rework a lot of the contracts regarding marketing research? I thought there was some savings there.
We did. So majority opinion was our research company. Sorry. But Downs and St. Germain is the new research company, and in that process, we saved tens of thousands of dollars in that process. Since I've arrived, we have been looking at every line item and everything from whether we need to have fish in the fish tank out at Perdido Key that costs us $12,000 a year to maintain those fish.
I can answer that. No.
No, is that no? Is it okay? Good. Who would like to buy some fish? And we'll drain the tank because
Actually, I do have
as a priority
coming up
goes,
that
it's pretty,
raises
but
fish.
yeah.
But I think Chairman Berry brings up some great points about the showcase budget and how it was cut. I think what you've been saying during the pandemic is that we didn't cut marketing. That we tried to, that was our last place to cut. We tried to cut other things to preserve the marketing dollars.
That's correct. We've been doing everything that we can. At this point, we've been informed by Pam Childers, the county clerk and comptroller, that due to the reduction in TDT collections, that the unified budget could be looking at a 27% cut. Doesn't appear that, it appears that whatever cut that is, that we are expected to shoulder the brunt of that. 27% cut when we are in the last quarter of our fiscal year. I'm not sure how we're going to exactly do that, other than basically we're taking a quarter of what we do and just stop doing it. So we've suspended marketing as we're trying to figure out just how significant that cut might be. We haven't been given an exact number yet, but we have that advance to pay back, and with that cut, I don't know there'd be enough in the budget to even submit those expenses to cover that advance at this point. So it's an interesting time.
Well, I think if there's one way to capture 25% more, it's the 5th cent, which the TDT has already voted on, or TDC has already voted on, and sent to this board, and we wanted to figure out how we could spend that money before we thought about enacting it. So if, that's one way to supplement that budget.
Yes, it is.
Okay. Thank you.
Commissioner Underhill.
Certainly, raising taxes is always one way to solve financial problems. I would ask that, I think that one of the important parts of this discussion is that we stop spending to the very best of our ability. We don't know what the recovery plan is going to look like, and we don't know when day one of that's going to be. The smart move right now is to throttle back, stop spending, one thing the government seems never to be able to do. And yet that's the one thing that in your home, the first thing you do when, say, wife loses job, husband loses job, the first thing you do is you stop spending and you cut out all the unnecessary spending. And then you hang tight. And you pray hard and you hope that person gets their job or whatnot, that the revenue comes back. While there's a lot more zeros after our budget really is no different than a home budget, in that you've got to be able to, you got to keep your expenditures under your revenues. We don't do a very good job of that in the government. And I would think, and I'd ask all the three members of the, that are recipients of that unified budget. Unified budget is really good government, because we established with the unified budget what the relative value of each of those three main pillars was. And that relative value, I don't think actually changes a whole lot in time of crisis or in time of plenty. So I would ask that and hope that we, obviously the way our budget works, that we've got time to kind of figure out what the total impact is. We don't know where the bottom is yet, and although we've reopened and we're moving toward reopening and whatnot, when the nation comes out of this crisis we call COVID, there will be a desire to move. There will be, and people will be really looking for value, because Americans are looking at, many Americans are looking at 30-40% cuts in their own income, and they're going to be recovering from that. They're still going to want a vacation. They're going to be looking for value in vacation. Somebody who may have gone to Paris or the Mediterranean or the Caribbean might be coming instead to a place like Pensacola. And really, that's what we ought to be very much focused on now, with the recognition that now is a time for thinking, now is a time for intel gathering, now is not a time for spending. And so, obviously, like I said, the way this is structured, we've kind of got time on that. But I tell you, the one thing we should all be doing is exactly what we would do in our homes if we lost half of our income, and that is stop spending. Thanks.
All right, board, any other comments?
Mr. Chairman, the
Yes,
only
ma'am.
thing I did want to mention is that the 1.3 that is showing for those projects is not expended. So that 1.3 is, we've not expended that 1.3 at this point. I just want to make that clear.
Gotcha. And you're welcome to have more comments.
And I would just close by saying that the unified budget, Visit Pensacola, we are here to tell our story, that there is a lot of questions out there. There are a lot of people that are asking us on a daily basis what is happening in Florida, what is happening with the surge. Are the beaches open? Are the stores open? Are the restaurants open? If they're open, how are they serving? What's going on with your attractions, your parks, your museums? What is open? And right now, a lot of our marketing is silent other than social media. We're trying to answer those questions. Our peers, Destin, you see their billboards in our backyard. You see their commercials on TV. They are ready to take our market share. They are ready to be that more visible destination. They're not telling them that their beaches are better than ours. They might look great. We know our beaches are better, but they're not saying, oh, but by the way, Pensacola Beach, Perdido Key, those beaches are better. They're just showing them great imagery, and they're out there being visible and extending that invitation. So that's what marketing does, and I'm more than happy to talk to anybody about the value and importance of marketing in a different conversation. But we're just looking to maintain that investment and what we can do to help Escambia County come out of this situation as quick as possible.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, I'm sorry, if I may, I want to actually tag on something that you specifically mentioned, and to continue the metaphor that I gave about our personal homes. If I was to lose one of my jobs today, first thing that would happen is you'd see my boat on Craigslist. I would divest myself of assets and liquidate those assets so that I could build myself a cushion. That fish tank out at Perdido Key has never put heads in beds at the rate it costs for it to be there. And quite frankly, if you can find somebody to purchase it, I would think that it would have been gone long before now. If you can't find somebody to purchase it, it still makes no sense to spend, what do you spend, 12 grand?
About $1,000 a month.
$1,000 a month to run a fish tank that very few people actually see. And people are not making decisions about whether or not they come to vacation in Perdido Key because of a fish tank that looks like a children's pirate ship. So
They are
by
not.
all means, divest yourself of assets that are not helping you achieve your mission.
It's top
Thank
of the
you.
list.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Absolutely. I'm sorry, Robert? Oh, okay, thank you. All right, Board, working our way forward. Next organization is African American Heritage Society.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, ma'am.
We did get a communication from Ms. Howard, and she's on an airplane. I do not know that she was trying to be on Teams, but I don't see her at this time on the folks that are on Teams, but she was trying to attend that way. So I assume that her plane has not landed.
Thank you. All right. Next organization, Naval Aviation Museum, and I believe that they may be on Teams.
Hi.
Hi, good morning.
Hi, good morning. First, thank you so much for your support in the past given us. I think a lot of people a little familiar with our current situation here at the National Naval Aviation Museum. We have experienced, of course, quite a few challenging scenarios, starting with the terrorist attack in December of 19, and which basically fettered access, public access to the museum, and has affected foundation revenues. COVID-19 since March has just thrown us another curveball, and we are currently sustaining our staff and also as much as we can, and also have postponed our NFA program for the summer. That being said, we would, I feel everybody's pretty familiar with the museum, what we do in our NFA programs, but it really is not possible to do what we do without you. And especially now more than ever, we need your support for heading into 2021, starting our programs up again. So if anybody has any specific questions about anything, I'm happy to answer them. And on behalf of the foundation, we sincerely appreciate your support and Pat and what you all do to help us to continue to deliver that dynamic STEM education program and historical offerings to our visitors and students in Escambia County alike.
Thank you. Robert?
Hi, thank you for joining us today. Just as I just mentioned, though, with the cut in revenues for other areas, would you all be able to take somewhat of a smaller cut, given the fact that the percentage of revenue has gone down so much?
Well, the percentage of revenues for the foundation, the way that most of our foundation is allocated.
Sorry, I want to clarify the revenue of what's collected by us. So
I'm sorry.
Our pot to hand out is not as much as it has been. So I just made the comment that I didn't think that visit should necessarily burden the reduction all by themselves, and seeing if you all would be open to some slight reduction.
Well, we will certainly put any dollar you give us to great use. It would not allow us to do as many specific local programs impacting students here in Escambia County. But that being said, we are well aware that revenues have decreased, so our impact might not be as much as it has been in previous years, but we would appreciate anything you can do.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Commissioner May?
Go ahead, Doug, because mine will be a little different.
Okay, go ahead.
So, Commissioner Bender, obviously, we're going to be telling no to a whole lot of people, and no is the right answer to a whole lot of people. But I think it's important that we remember that this catastrophic attack on our income started a little bit sooner on base. It started with the shutdown that followed the terrorist attack. And this organization is the single, really is about the only tourist driver on the west side. and is extremely important in that role. It is also really kind of the sinew that bonds our military heritage and our tourism. So I would ask that, while by all means, as far as I'm concerned, not anybody, including our discretionary funds and our salaries, as far as I'm concerned, should all be, is all suspect to the chopping block in a year like this. I would say that this organization took the financial hit months before the rest of the county did due to that terrorist attack. And getting that base reopened, the base is, as you know as a West Sider, that base is critical to our DNA. Access to that base, critical to our DNA, so that when we do get past this thing, getting, especially with regard to the things that the foundation does and getting our kids back into it, it is not enough for a Warrington kid to simply look up above him in the sky and see exceptionalism. It's imperative that he have access to that exceptionalism, and the things that we do at this facility are exactly that thing. So I would hope that, certainly wide open to having that discussion. It's very important that we remember who these, what this entity does for all of us across the board. Thanks a lot.
Do we have any update on the access, and when is it more COVID related now, or is it still December 6th?
And nothing that would be appropriate to discuss in this forum at this time in terms of an update. So yes, and now keeping in mind, of course, that they've been closed down, so you would think that should decrease their expenses considerably. Exactly the same conversations we had with Visit Pensacola, and I believe that they have. But no, that is in terms of when they can open up and which constraints are COVID related and which are anti-terrorism force protection related. Yeah, that's not really a conversation that I would be party to.
Thank you. Commissioner May?
Robert, does Visit market the Flight Academy and their promotion and part of it? I'm getting a nod.
I'm saying head nods, yes.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Okay. That was the only question, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman?
Yes, sir.
If we're done, when she's finished, I did have one of our outside agency that asked me when we had the visit discussion, and he'd like to have 2 minutes if you wouldn't think
Sure.
of robbery, and
Sure.
whenever she's finished.
All right, thank you. Board, any other questions? Thank you very much for your time. Thank you for your participation through
Thank
teams.
We
this time.
certainly appreciate it.
Absolutely. Commissioner May?
Mr. Banks?
How y'all doing?
Good.
I'm not going to take up much of your time. I'm just trying to, first of all, I want to thank this board for giving my wife a proclamation. She passed away. I know everybody know that. But what I'm here and concerned about today, we have a jazz festival that is scheduled for Labor Day weekend. And the numbers in Florida just kind of keep going up. We have cut the capacity down to about 1,300 people in a venue that you can put about 4,500. So what I'm trying to get clarification from this board, that if I postponed it, I have not spent all the money that was awarded to do the Jazz Festival, would that roll over if I decide to go to 2021? That's what I need to know. Like the fireworks, for the fireworks and stuff, if I don't do it, do I lose it? They say if you don't use it, you lose it. So the only body that can bring some understanding, so Visit Pensacola know that if I decide to postpone it, in case these numbers between now and September just skyrocketed, we don't need to have it.
Mr. Chairman?
Yeah.
If I might?
Yeah.
Yeah, Cadillac, to me, that makes sense, unless there's some statutory provision that would say otherwise. I think that's smart. That would be a smart and prudent policy for you and any other organization that has something that's been funded already and scheduled. Roll it to next year, and hopefully things get better. And what I wouldn't want to see is the money be pulled back, because then that'll put additional pressure on for next year when we might have more of a constrained level of resources. So, Madam Administrator, I think I would like to hear your thoughts on that, because if we've already awarded, or approved it, I don't see any reason why we wouldn't be able to let that happen. And I think that makes it easier next year when the requests come.
Yeah, because next year, from what I'm understanding, there would be no grant money awarded to anyone for events, to promote tourism in Escambia County.
Well, and it all depends on what happens,
Right,
going forward. I
right.
mean, things are changing daily around here, and we're all watching it with great anticipation. But I think you make a good point, and I would certainly support that. But I want to hear. We got a little huddle going on, so I guess we're gonna find out. Is that legitimate?
So
Can we
I
do
was
that?
making sure, because it's not in our budget, it's in the Visit Pensacola budget. So it would be between him and Visit Pensacola in terms of a roll forward or a budget.
All right, well, that's a legitimate question. Darren's here.
Yeah,
I
Darren,
mean,
what do you think?
If you come to the podium to answer, I mean, that's a legitimate question. I wouldn't think it's going to be the only issue that you would have.
And may I just add real quick, because Darren, you're not allowed to roll forward your budget though, are you? So,
That is my understanding, that we have not been allowed to roll forward any dollars from when we have a surplus into the next year.
So
We'd love to put it into a sinking fund or something for reserves, but
Yeah, the question
historically,
specifically
no.
was about a grant recipient being able to roll the funds forward if they don't do the project.
No, actually, any grant recipient that canceled their event for this year, those funds were actually used to offset the budget cuts that we've been asked to shoulder.
There's the answer.
And then
That's
it
what's
wouldn't be
going on.
carried forward to next year.
Okay,
Cadillac.
and that's
They'd
the
have to reapply.
So
But that's going to be a problem. I'm sorry, Mr. Chairman, because Mr. Banks, how much have you already spent?
Most of the deposits has already been paid to the
What's
artists.
the dollar amount?
We probably about 75,000 out there already. And we got another 75, maybe $50,000 to spend on the back end for the artists. So the way the contract, this how it really works. Let me make it simple. You have an artist that you already.
I don't want to cut you off because I get to the point. And let me have this dialogue with him, and we'll turn it back to you. The problem that I'd see, Jeff, is he's already got 75,000. We're going to lose that $75,000 if we don't make a provision to get him that 75,000. To me, we have to figure it out.
It makes sense.
Yeah.
but he's not in the grant line item.
No.
He's not in the grant line item.
So, well, his situation would be different then, if he's not in the grant line item.
So, which line item is he in? He's in,
Festivals, local events, sport.
5141?
So, I mean,
So
to me,
5141 is actually having an increase of $32,000 for next year.
But they have to have a policy. They have to have a policy that.
I don't disagree.
Well, what policy, Darren, what have you told recipients about cancellation of events?
So also in that line item is 150,000 next year for the Sun Belt Basketball Conference. So that's a significant
What's
addition.
the answer to the question, if you don't mind?
It's not in the grant program, right? In the grant program, if they canceled their event, the money came back to the organization. We use that money to offset the cuts. This is outside of that grant program, but we have not been allowed by the county to roll any funds forward. So if we want to set those dollars aside, say, hey, this is for Summerfest, and the county says it's okay, we're good with that. We
Okay,
can
so
only
you haven't-
work with what we're allowed to do.
Okay, so you haven't necessarily told any recipients for the festivals anything about if they cancel their festivals?
No, we have.
so
Everybody
what have you
else that's
told-
been through the grant program, they are aware of that those dollars have to be reapplied for in the future. And we've also let all the applicants that would have come up in this next round know that the program's on pause. This particular event is outside of the grant process.
Okay. What process are you saying would relate to Mr. Banks? That's what the board is asking. I believe, that's one of the questions the board is asking. So if he spent $75,000, then, and there's 50 left, what is the feedback from Visit to Mr. Banks?
The county doesn't allow us to roll those dollars forward.
Okay, so so there's not an issue with the fact that he's spent a portion of the money during this year and would be putting the event off?
He's received that money from us
All right, and
to date.
so there's no issue with that?
Right.
It would be the 50, and the board could give specific feedback if the board chose to about that?
It would be like an earmark in a future budget, yes.
All right, but for your other regular grant recipients, you've told them that if the event was canceled, the funds will not be
Don't-
dispersed?
That's right.
Okay.
Ray, how would that affect our Sun Belt tournament? in being consistent with policy, if we can't roll it over with the money that's being allocated for.
Well, we're hoping to have a conversation with y'all to change that policy, quite frankly, is because we're being punished by not being able to spend that money, and we're gonna need that money next year, absolutely. But we've got a contractual commitment of X to Sunbelt Conference, and, you know, I've got some this year that we're gonna already have to go back to them and say, sorry, guys,
Right.
that money's not available anymore, or at least a portion of it. It's
Well,
gonna be.
Ray, you know you have my full support.
It's going to be completely cut. So I think we're going to come to the county and ask for the change of that normal policy of not being able to carry forward money to spend it just to spend it so that you say you spend it all. You know, so.
Yeah, and that's certainly not what the county wants.
No, we don't want that
That's
to
not what we
spend it.
want.
But that's just,
I understand.
again, that's just kind of been the procedure that we've done. I've been able to, you know, to be able to get the money I had saved, because Visit Pensacola allowed me to get it back, but it's not been a standard procedure. So that's, you know, since it's such a segmented, specific use of the tourist development tax, we would hope that we could, if there's any savings, but right now, with the potential cuts that we're looking at, I mean, we're cut to the bone. All our grant program has been suspended as well for this fiscal year.
Okay. I think that'd be a great conversation.
The only other option I do have, to keep this thing rolling. And I'm not saying I'm gonna postpone it for Labor Day. I'm not make it clear on that. But if there is a case where I have to postpone it, and I have been in contact with all the agencies that I'm dealing with, these artists already have their deposits and everything. I just need to give them the rest of
And
the.
kind of like, in due time, I don't think that you're gonna get your clear answer today, but I think you see some support coming from the board.
Okay.
And I mean, I'll go on record and tell you, it would be irresponsible for me to say have it. But
Yeah, I know it would.
You would find my support in figuring it out, because you've already invested $75,000 of the people's money. And so we gotta figure out how we do it. But we won't figure it out from this dais today,
Okay.
but we'll get it figured out.
I just wanted to bring that to you guys'
Thank
attention so we have a good understanding.
All right, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
You have any more questions for me? I don't have any more questions, Mr. Banks. Do you
Well,
have any
yeah,
questions?
it's related, though. You know, the TDT is one of the most constrained forms of tax that we have, and I love constrained. Anytime that we take a tax, it should be very constrained and only be spendable on the things that we told the people we were going to do. When we deviate from that, we have bad government. Madam Comptroller, in your role as the Comptroller, and I'm trying to remember the reason, rather than, either you can come up to the podium now and tell us, or if you would, please, obviously, you see the discussion that the board is about to, has got to address, and I'm sure that Mr. Banks is not the only one that we're going to have to address this on. We've always said no, no to any rollover of taxes, of TDT funds from year to year. Do we even have the ability to do that? If we don't, is there something that we would have to address with the state to get us an exception for these obviously exceptional times?
I don't know about going to the state, Commissioner Underhill. I believe how the funds work, if there are excess funds, they go in the county coffers, let's say in Fund 108, and you can build the cash there. The agreement that you have with Pensacola, Visit Pensacola, would be forthcoming as you would have funds available. You may choose to amend that contract. You may choose to say, hey, given this amount of revenue, you need to stop spending 27%. And let's say we get to September 30th and we find out that, hey, we collected $900,000 more. You know you just cut them 27%. You may choose to say, hey, let's go ahead and make this an addendum to that budget, because they probably have grants or festivals that were pending, and you may direct that Visit Pensacola use this monies to those things that were canceled. You kind of give and take at the end.
Yeah. Thanks as always for your advice and counsel. That's that really stands to reason. That 108 fund can be that place where we put things safely away while we figure out exactly how bad this is going to be and what the future should hold.
Pam, is that a state ordinance or a local ordinance that you can't roll it over? Is that a policy or ordinance?
If you read the statutes and you look at the ordinances that you have, any excess goes to where the TDT is held. It is held with the county, and specifically in Fund 108.
But that's a local
You-
statute.
Ordinance, you have you have a statute, and then you have an ordinance that gives more direction on your plan. You have a TDC plan. They can request 100% of the excess. It doesn't mean you have to do that in your budget process. You may choose to do it later on when you see that there is excess. Sorry, Commissioner Bender, you're over there.
So would that be, that's okay. So would that be the carry forward then, that if anything does get returned, that it then just gets put back in as part of the carry forward?
You can do it as part of the carry forward, and it can be an adjustment on the carry forward. Let me try not to mix up words. There are some expenses that they have at the end of the year that they don't expend, but they have encumbered. So we carry those funds aside, cash, to be able to spend that. Then we also have excess revenues. That's that short and over. You can hold that in Fund 108. They can request it. You can choose to spend it on something else eligible by statute. We all get to the end and can make different decisions, but we do have a plan that outlines priorities and what it should be spent on.
But I think historically, it has gone back to them though, hasn't it?
Yeah, we've had very good years, and we have been pro-advertising, tourism, bring events, expanding. This is a very difficult year on all of us.
Sure.
We can give it back or reallocate it. It's at
That's
our
what I'm
discretion,
saying.
correct, Pam?
Correct.
Right,
You will spend time on that.
absolutely.
And we do have a workshop with the TDC on Monday to go through a lot of these issues to discuss with the TDC.
Thank you.
Oh, yeah, go
Go ahead, Rob.
I have some other questions. Cal, like, how many years have you been doing this event?
This will be the 5th anniversary.
I think it's time we start to wean a little bit,
Yes,
especially given our times that we're in right now.
I understand that.
In that, I think it's great that we've been able to help fund you and get you the exposure that you need to turn the festival, but it's time to start getting some outside monies and other revenue sources for that, because that's how it should be done. That's how they handle all their other grants, and honestly, 150,000 is quite a good chunk of change. I know there was another concert in my district that after last year, I said, I can't support you anymore.
Right.
So, it's, I think I think the discussion would probably be is that you try to get back as much as you can this year, or apply it to next year, and maybe you get a remaining balance or something like that. But I don't know. Given the number of people, citizens that rely on tourism, to spend $150,000 on a concert for people, when again we just talked about the shortfall that they're having in trying to help these people essentially live, I think is going to be a hard look for next year.
I can understand that. And the way I kind of look at that, and I get what you're saying to me, that's fine. I mean, as long as that's being applied across the board to all events. In other words, I don't want to have an event that's just singing out the Gulf Coast Summerfest and say, well, you need to find some outside funding. Well, if I have to find outside funding, everybody who get funding from the county need to also look for outside funding.
I don't
That's kind
disagree.
of, I mean, we could disagree and agree.
No, I'm saying I don't disagree.
Oh, okay. I mean, because
you're
you go get
dead
Frank.
right, but they've also paused their entire grant program for next year and things that
I know
weren't
I'm
a
not
line
gonna get
item.
it. I know I'm not gonna get it next year. I'm gonna have to look somewhere else to get it.
Sure.
But if my event is producing heads and beds, if my event is having an economic impact, and the economic impact is more than what you're giving me, then why not continue the event? This is a national event now. It's not just a Pensacola event. So my position, if I'm not allowed to come to the board or to visit Pensacola to get any funding to help offset, because the event is more than $150,000. By the time I finish, I'll be about $225 into this or more. So I get that we're in a hard time, but this gonna pass. This COVID-19 will eventually pass, and I understand they budget is getting cut. You know, they're not gonna be able to promote Visit Pensacola like they normally could because their money is getting cut short. Everybody's money is getting short. So next year, if there is no funding, if there is no grant program, yes, I'm gonna have to try to find out where I can get it from, or either move the event to another city or so.
But again, I mean, you just said that 66% plus whatever else we've given you this year is coming from us to run this event. They've already offered that they can do marketing. That's what they specialize in. They can use their resources to help promote your event and hopefully turn it into something bigger than it is.
Well, that's what I want. I want the event to become way bigger than what it is, because eventually I'm gonna stop doing the event anyway. Somebody gonna have to pick up the end of this event and keep this event going. This is a #1 event in Escambia County. You get people coming in here from all over the country, even from overseas. Do you want it to die, or do you want to keep it? I'm offering that event to Visit Pensacola to figure out a way that we can keep it going for years to come.
But I think you also have to realize that, that this is not a sustainable model, and that throughout the country, these types of events are getting cut. Long before this. I mean, I think Bayfest in Mobile, which was heavily funded by their city, I don't think that's around anymore. You know, I mean, it's, and all the more reason to have it be a sustainable on its own and not be funded, you know, 66, 70% by other dollars.
But what I'm trying to, my point is, if you understand what jazz, contemporary smooth jazz is, there was no smooth jazz in Mobile. Seabreeze Jazz Festival in Panama City draws 10,000 people every year. It's been for the last 20 years. Jazz is the new music. Jazz, all the jazz festivals, everyone that's been created, including mine, in a 4-year run, this festival has taken on national recognition, where people come in here that normally would never come to Pensacola. The survey shows that people who come to Pensacola specifically comes to Pensacola to see the jazz festival. They don't come to Pensacola to go to the beach. They are traveling here for that festival. So that lets me know that this festival has taken on a life of its own that needs the support
But I'm
of
saying,
the
how do
county.
you expand it then? I mean, how do you make it that great festival? I mean, I went to Newport Jazz Fest when I was in my teens, and, you know, I mean, there were food vendors. I mean, there were lots of things that made it a great event that helped cover the cost of it. And so I think you've I mean, you've been running it for 5 years. You're
Four, this is the fifth.
Fourth. So you've had 4 events. You're starting to get that national recognition. So how do you take it to the next step? I mean, how do you get them to come down and have an even better experience? Because now you do have the branding, you've got the name recognition. What's next?
You got to keep it going, because like I say, it's only 4 years. So to build a festival in that short period of time, most festivals take about 10 years to really build. People ain't just gonna pop up and come here. So in order, it travels by word of mouth that this is the festival to come to. Pensacola is the place to come. So you continue to build on that. You continue to bring in more vendors. Sooner or later, I don't never want to have to come here and ask you for no money. Honestly, to be honest about it. But I am in a building process. Before I started doing jazz, it was R&B. It turned out horrible. But we just kept on, because at one time, the black population didn't have no entertainment in Pensacola. And I hate to go there with this, but I see that's where I need to go.
I don't think that's where you need to go.
Let me finish what I'm saying. There was no black entertainment coming to Pensacola, Florida, period, until I started. But the numbers wasn't doing good. In other words, it really wasn't putting no heads in beds. So when they get me on, you need to put heads in beds. So that's when I come up with jazz. The jazz come about from seeing jazz at Seabreeze in Panama City, where people was coming in from everywhere. That's what started the jazz. That's what started building this festival. This festival is not 100% built to where it need to be, so you and everybody on this board can see a really economic impact from the festival. So you just can't say, well, you know, kind of like you've been doing it for years, it's branded, it should do this. It still takes work. I'm not asking you for anything. I'm not asking you for no more than what other festivals or events that have in Pensacola, Florida. Because eventually this festival gonna belong to Escambia County and not me.
I understand, and I think I prefaced by saying I think we needed to start weaning. That's what I said. I didn't say.
I'm good with that.
Yeah. So, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Robert, I could not agree with you more that actually the time to have started weaning was a long time ago. We've got to get out of it. And if you look at all across the nation, taxpayer-funded parties are coming to an end. That is not something that taxpayer dollars were ever supposed to do. And in fact, when organizations do not have access to taxpayer dollars, they tend to grow rather indigenously. And then once they start to get on the, I won't continue the weaning metaphor, but once they get on those government dollars, then the organizations become large, too large to sustain, and they end up having trouble. So the TDT exists in primarily for the purpose of advertisement, which is what was sold when the tax was created. There is a very clear impact on our infrastructure due to tourism, and there is infrastructure aspects that tourism development tax should be used for. But as we run down through this thing, I don't want to, Robert, I'm 100% with you. If you want to defund any party with taxpayer dollars, whether that be the a jazz festival, a parade, all those kind of things. That's what volunteer dollars are for. That's what volunteer time is for. 4th of July fireworks, there's fireworks all over the country, or all over the community, put on with private sector dollars. There's no reason for us to continue spending that. So, and it's not a black thing, a white thing, or a this thing, or a that thing. It's taxpayer dollars should not be funding events, parties like that. It should have been, these taxpayer dollars should fund business capture, which is advertisement, and then the impact on the infrastructure that comes from tourism, or that can reasonably be expected to support the tourism events. So there's not any sense in a back and forth on it. Just wanted to share that with my peer that I'm 100% behind you and alongside you if you are looking to start defunding parties with taxpayer dollars.
TDC funding. That statute specifically states that those TDC dollars is to promote tourism, which include events. So if you take the event out the statute, if the legislature decided to take that out, I get it. But for now, that is exactly, if you go back and read the statute, word for word, to promote tourism. And tourism says event and other things that's in that statute. So I'm not here to try to debate whether it's not a party, because you're making dollars off the event. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, I just want to say, look, Cadillac, I support your event. You know I have, and I've supported the fireworks, and we're using this money to, like you said, bring heads in beds, whether that's an event at the Civic Center like Pensacon. I mean, we have no compunction with funding that because we know it pays dividends. People come and they spend money in hotels. So, I just think it's a little disingenuous to say, well, I support this, but not that. Then we're getting into picking winners and losers, right? And we don't want to do that. So
yes.
I agree with what you said, and you made a very salient point. It's allowed under statute. It's past practice. We've been doing it. I'm supportive. I want this community to be enriched with all kinds of events throughout the year. That's why I support Visit Pensacola and what you're doing, and Foo Foo Fest and all the other things. So, yeah, Doug, no, it's not a party. It's bringing people here to spend money, and we make money from it. I mean, what you told me last time, what was the...
Yeah, over the couple of years, we'd have made over $500,000 in economic impact for this event.
So, for a 75,000 or a 100,000 number. So, anyway, that's my 2 cents. We'll see what happens next year.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, if I may just clarify a statement. Jeff, Pensacon goes through the grant program. They don't have a line item in the budget.
Yeah, that's fine. But it's coming out of the same pot of money. It's coming from the same stream of funding.
It is.
So there's that.
But it's still a completely different process.
All right, thank you. Next organization, West Florida Historic Preservation Board, Rob Overton.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Hearing a lot of things going on. Robert Overton, Executive Director of the Historic Trust, that we've talked about heads and beds and about unified budgets. We also are part of a unified budget with the Historic Trust and 3 of the local cemeteries, St. Michael's, AME Zion, and Magnolia. So that's the unified budget. We did ask for a $25,000 increase this year, but that's an increase that we had talked with the council about. That would be for the 200th anniversary of Escambia County's celebration. The city's going to put in funding, and the county we had talked and came up with a $25,000 amount. So that's what our budget is. We looked at potentially cutting with the cemeteries. Those are fixed costs, and those cemeteries really are public parks almost. That those are maintenance costs and groundskeeping costs, and so with cutting those, it defeats the whole purpose of that. So if we did a cut, the brunt of that cut, or the full cut, would come out of the Historic Trust when we operate the museums. Our portion of that is about $120,000. We bring in over 175,000 visitors each year. Museums also put heads in beds, and so of the tourism tax, we use that to help promote our museums, to help do some basic maintenance pieces on those. So it would be difficult to shoulder those, but we would do whatever whatever you decided we needed to do on those. And I'm here to answer any questions if you have them.
Sure. Thank you, Rob. Robert.
Thank you. Specifically regarding the 200th anniversary, I mean, Darren, do we think there's any marketing? I mean, what's our ability to capitalize on this from a tourism standpoint? Because I think it's important, just as we just talked, we don't want to be spending money on parties, but it's, I don't know of too many others that are going to be able to celebrate this same milestone anywhere in the near future. So I guess what type of value does this event probably bring to our community?
Okay, so I've been preoccupied with other things in my first 90 days. Well, there is a committee meeting today at 2. Jack Brown, my interim CEO, is originally very involved, and so I have let Jack continue to be the primary on that. I think celebrating an anniversary like that, 200 years, is pretty significant. I think it's very significant for our residents to recognize that. I don't know enough to be able to properly say how we can capitalize on that. I know that a lot of the programming has been pushed back to January 1st. Is that correct? So that gives us some time to work on that and develop some things. I think there's a lot of good ideas from what I've heard, and that's a role that Visit Pensacola can play, is help corral that and design specific marketing tactics to promote that. I wish I could give you better information on that.
It's fine. I just want to make sure that there would be some value to that.
We're going to be involved.
Okay. Because I know that when we did the tall ships 2 years ago, I thought that was fairly successful. But I know that was also a significant outlay for Visit to do that. And again, this doesn't come around
200 years.
very often. I can also say, though, that I know that I think this board supported that before I got on. I think Mayor Robinson, Commissioner Robinson at the time, had asked the board for their support on that and starting the planning process and moving forward with that. So given this time to be able to celebrate some history like that is it's an opportunity that doesn't come around very often. So, but I think we do need to make sure that we are getting an ROI and that there is more than just that party going on.
Right. Well, part of you talk about the party, part of this, and we had to roll some of them back, our timeline, but beginning in January, God willing that COVID is long past us, there are some ideas of some reenactments starting in the north end of the county, talking about the troops coming in. So this would be something that would be spread out throughout the county, even down into Cantonment, which was the camp where they had, and involving all of the various diverse cultures here, culminating with, in July of 2021, event of some sort downtown to mark that. But year-long campaign and some banners and some logos and those things would be part of it.
And Friday, the 17th, is kind of our birthday,
Yes.
199th birthday this Friday.
Thank you, Board. Any other questions? Thank you, Rob.
Thank you.
Next organization, General Chappie James Flight Academy.
Good afternoon,
Good
Mr. Chairman, Commissioners.
afternoon.
By the way, that's an exquisite yellow tie, sir. I must
Oh,
say. This is our first time applying for a grant from the county. The General Daniel Chappie James Flight Academy started in 1996, grassroots, 4 naval aviators, all of us African-American, that said, you know, we're down here. We started our professional careers here in this city. We have to do something to give back to the kids and the community. So we started the General Daniel Chappie James Flight Academy in honor of the native son, first African-American 4-star general from Pensacola. Not African-American history, American history. So what we did is we went into the community and our mission statement says, we're going to build confidence in the classroom using aviation as the key learning tool. It's a gee whiz kind of thing, and kids that may otherwise not be motivated to pay attention or get involved, it's amazing what you can do when you take a kid that's shy to speak or comes from possibly a distressed childhood, and you take them through a summer camp program, and then you put them in an airplane, and they actually get to fly the airplane and control the airplane. And we've had great success stories with kids going on to be lawyers, international marketing for big corporations, and that's kind of how we've given back to the community. It's been a long haul. We started out at Little Rock Baptist Church, no home of our own, and with the good graces of the Naval Air Station, VT-10, Starbase Atlantis, we were begging for space just to have a home. In 2018, the city of Pensacola actually started the Chappie James Memorial Site, which is the museum co-located the General Daniel Chappie James Flight Academy. And from there, we've been able to expand our program, not just a summer camp anymore, because the city has to get a return on their investment. Now we're going to monthly classes. The kids just recently built operating wind tunnels. Kids just recently, from components, built a computer system. And so that's what we're doing with the funding, or our intended use to further our impact on the community.
Thank you. Board, any comments, questions?
No, really appreciate what you guys are doing. I've had the opportunity to go to the museum and the Flight Academy. So
It's a labor of love. By the way, the reason I made the comment, my wife is in Madison, Wisconsin, and she's watching us now. She said, you got to tell him what an exquisite yellow tie that is.
Oh, thank you. I thought it was because of your polo shirt, but I'll take it. Thank you.
Well, obviously, your wife's, she's pretty good. Flattery gets,
Well, my wife actually is helping us improve this program because she's the treasurer. She was in public accounting for 10 years, actually ran payroll for a major company up in Madison, Wisconsin, so.
thank you for your service to our country.
Mr. Chairman, and this may be more towards the administrator, but I guess why would we put this under the TDT? Or instead of an outside agency, or
I know you're addressing her, sir, but
Yes, sir.
when we applied, we didn't have an idea what to apply under.
That's what I was
So
gonna say.
I think that was our ignorance as to where we should, what area, what category we should apply under.
I'm not faulting you, and I'm just asking the question
Understand.
of, like I said, we're this, I'd say, account is being more, again, it's based off collections from visitors and, or those in hotel beds, and so seeing if there would be a better spot for this request.
And Robert, I don't know, I think it's a worthy organization, but I will say, because I've been involved at the Chappie James, they have bus loads, and they not only do they have charter buses coming, they have people flying in to go to the Chappie James Museum. It's one Yeah, one of the most popular historical sites in the African-American community, so people travel from afar to visit the Chappie James Museum, so there's a lot of interaction.
Sure, I'm just saying, if there's a better spot we could find for it, then I'd be willing to support that.
Okay, thank you.
Super. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Yes, sir. All right, next organization is Five Flags. Sir Thomas? Okay, super. All right, now into, next item is going to be the PEDC. And Louis Bear is on Teams, is that correct?
He was on Teams, but I know that Scott Luth is on
I
at
see
this
Scott
time.
now. I
Scott
didn't
Luth
see.
is here.
I see Scott,
Oh,
okay.
is he?
Maybe you can come forward, Scott.
Somebody with Scott Luth's name is on his computer.
It's
He
not
was
Lew-
probably watching it until it was his turn, then.
Yeah, yeah.
Lewis is not on Teams.
He was. We had a lot of video evidence.
Oh, you saw him
Oh,
for
yeah,
yourself? Okay,
yeah.
well, that's real strange for Lewis to be on Teams.
Well, again, I guess Commissioners, unless he's able to log back on, again, I'm here on behalf of PDC and Florida West for economic development funding request. Just a couple things. You know, this is our second year of our 5-year strategy that we brought to the commission, I guess it was about a year and a half ago. Just to kind of tell you where we are, at least to date, over those 2 years, we're looking at around 14 different companies that we've worked with. We've got a commitment of 1,502 jobs associated with that, with an approximate average wage about $54,000, you know, for each one of those jobs. We look at across that. Of those, 11 of those companies that we've worked with are actually our small business incubator, which is the CoLab, which created 29 of those 1,502 jobs. This year alone, we're looking at to date a commitment of 144 jobs, about $7 million in payroll, which equates to about a $50 million economic impact. So, be happy to answer any questions specifically in our proposal to y'all, or anything else that y'all would like to address today. Thank you.
Board, Commissioner May?
No, Mr. Chairman.
Our board, any other questions or comments? All right, hearing none, next organization is Gulf Coast Minority Chamber of Commerce. I see Brian Wire in the audience.
Good morning, Commissioners. I'm here to answer any questions that you may have. I work with most of you on many different boards or committees and different activities. I also have some new directories for our chamber that we created just last week to give you, to kind of show some of the support we have in the community and who we work with. Can I answer any questions for you?
Board, any questions? Commissioner Bender?
Brian, just, again, thanks all you do to help promote this. I saw you at Escarosa ribbon cutting the other day, and so just want to say thank you. So.
Oh, thank you, Commissioner Bender. I appreciate that.
Yeah, and Brian, I also want to echo Commissioner Bender's thoughts, and I want to thank you for what you're doing to help pass out the masks. I know you and your organization have been around helping to distribute them, so we appreciate what you're doing. Thank you.
Thank you for your support. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. All right, board, next organization, Escambia County School Readiness Coalition. Good morning.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. Bruce Watson, Executive Director of what is also known as the Early Learning Coalition of Escambia County. And thank you and good afternoon for the opportunity to speak. As I presented to you last year, the state changed how we do match. So now match is even more critical because of the fact that match money allows us to serve and bring in the door families between 150 and 200% of federal poverty level, whereas our regular school readiness program, they have to be under 150 to get in the door. So that allows us to serve the additional families. We currently have 105 children in care today, funded through your match money. And so without your money, those 105 and the additional 40 I have waiting to get in as soon as COVID lets up a little bit, will come into our care, and we hope to sustain it at about 140 for the coming year. And I'm available for questions.
Thank you, Bruce. We'll see any. Thank you very much.
Okay, you're welcome, sir.
All right, next is Keep Pensacola Beautiful, and Sigrid Soligard, I believe, is here. Oh, incorrect. I'm sorry, Tina.
Hello,
There she is.
I'm here now.
Hi, good afternoon.
All right. Well, as you guys know, I think most of you are very familiar with the services that we offered through this allocation. This year, you know, we've been able to continue with pretty much everything. The only thing we've seen a decrease in is like code enforcement calls, I think was the main thing, but we've been able to stay on top of roadside litter and pretty much everything else. And I'm happy to take questions from you guys if you have anything specific.
Thank you. Any comments or questions for Ms. Odegaard? I don't see anything. Thank you very much for being here with us.
Thank you so much.
All right, Board, that takes us through our scheduled agenda. Is there any further comments or questions, concerns? If not, we will convene tomorrow morning, 9 a.m.